Hello and welcome to the Blackdog podcast, episode 290.
Woo! 10 to go, fuckers!
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Wow, that was good. That's, so we're being visited by, Ernest, Mavis Cruitt. Mavis Cruitt, the Talking TV.
Evil Edna.
Evil Edna. Okay, fine. Oh, yeah, got to get it right. Sorry, my Will-O-the-Wisp is a bit rusty. Sorry, Evil Edna. Who was the witch in Chorlton and the Weedies?
Fenella.
The Welsh witch.
The Kettle Witch.
Yes, the Kettle Witch.
Hello, little old lady.
I'm going to get you, you silly dragon. Anyway, hello. It's going to be one of those episodes.
This is not the entrance I was expecting this week.
No, probably not. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 290. I'm Lee.
I'm Darren.
I'm Jim. And I'm Elton.
That's brilliant. And yes, we are here to do the first of our 4, hopefully, weeks of horror. Unless it turns into 28, pretty much like every other year. And yes, we'll have a little chat, see how everyone's week's been, and then we'll get on to our first film, which is going to be Halloween, which is my choice. Woo! And yeah, so there you go. So without further ado, we shall get on, I guess, because it's all gone quiet over there. So, right, brilliant. Hello, everyone. So we'll start with Jim. How was your week, sir?
Been fairly busy. Been quite stressful, but thankfully everything got sorted out, and I had a nice weekend away in Birmingham, where I went to see roving TV reporter Jonathan Pye performing live.
Awesome. And how was he, sir?
It was very, very good. I mean, if you're not familiar with Jonathan Pye, he's on YouTube and he does these usually like 5-10 minute kind of little skits of based on a troubled news reporter having various verbal breakdowns. And that, I say, for the actual gig, the conceit was that we were a live audience at an event for children in need, and the increasing harassment. Mr. Pye was standing in for John Barrowman and not turning up, and he was just filling in between links.
and talking to Tim, his gallery man.
Yes.
Excellent.
It worked really, really well, and I do recommend going to see him on his tour, which he's currently taking around, because it's a superb hour of performance comedy. Essentially, it's a comedy one-man show. But yeah, very, very, very good. Very impressed. So that was nice. Yes.
Nice. That's really cool. He's superb. His YouTube videos are really good. I have to admit, first time I watched it, I suddenly thought, oh, actually, is this real? Is this some sort of outtake? And then, sure enough, I fell in with the joke. But yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. Carry on.
Yes, other than that, while I was out and about this week, I went into one of the local, a bit of everything kind of shops. I'll just say it's for UK listeners, it was Wilkinson's before Wilkinson's. It's that kind of shop, does a bit of everything. And I went in and I noticed they had going reduced from £25 or something. Kind of, 'cause it does a lot of stock clearance. It had like a cardboard headset.
Oh,
but
right.
a plastic one with padded eye sets and head adjustable lenses and stuff. And so I thought, oh, well, I'll take a punt on that. And apart from that, the head straps being a little bit short for my bonds, which I might have to alter. It actually works pretty well. It is quite handy because it actually has adjustable lenses. You can alter them sort of left and right and sort of back and forward to get the right focal length and the right pairing for your eyes, which is an advantage over the ordinary sort of cardboard you can make yourself or pay some shyster £10 to send you some cardboard and lenses for.
Yeah.
And so I've been I've been away, I've not had much chance to play with it, but I was mucking around earlier tonight with playing VR Pac-Man.
Oh my word. In what, first person Pac-Man?
So you move your head and go around this maze. It was a bit basic. It's still in development. I mean, the ghosts currently just like these huge round coloured balls rather than ghosts, but it actually works surprisingly well. Though I do recommend if you're going to try and play any sort of VR game or mucking about on VR, do it in a big room in a swivel chair.
Yes,
That's what I've learned.
I know what you mean. I've got one myself, and I've got a thing called End Space VR, which is basically you're a fighter pilot in space, and you have to spin round to lock onto the enemy and look up and down and God knows what else. And I had two people watching me play this while I had this on, and they just said I looked like someone who was just having a fit and going a bit mental with a big bit of plastic on me front of my face.
Right. So are we calling you Lawnmower Jim now? Is this it now? Is this the start of it?
Not yet. I mean, this is one of those things I thought for a tenner. This, I wanted to try it, and it's kind of I'm willing to pay that. It's quite a nice headset, quite sturdily made. But kind of this to be novelty item, and I'm bored. I don't think I've been robbed for for the fun I've had out of it so far.
Nice.
But I've got like a little Bluetooth controller coming in the post to actually go into some of the more complicated games and whatnot and see what it can do. But it is quite fun. It is quite intriguing. I mean, if you want a taste of the VR thing without spending, the best part of a grand on an Oculus Rift or a Vive, or Samsung VR, which once you buy the phone, that's about the same. It's a good way to do it for under a tenner if your phone's up to it and has the right sensors. Yeah,
it might also. Go on. Sorry, Dal.
No, I was going to say, download the Stranger Things experience.
I was just about to say that.
Bastard.
Yeah, just make sure you got some clean underwear when you do it. All right, okay, spare, ready to go because you're going to need it.
Yeah, or wear some brown corduroys.
Yeah, that as well.
if you're doing it in public. Excellent. Anything else, sir?
That'll be it, I think, for me.
Brilliant. Okay, then. Well, how about you, Mr. Elton?
Okay, well, the only thing of note for me this week is Amanda was hosting a coffee morning down the local village hall for Macmillan's. Yeah. And I had to go take Kimmy on a horse riding lesson. Once that was over, we ended up going down to the coffee morning. And obviously the cool kids of the village get down there earlier. So all the stragglers are left towards the end of the day. And there I am turning up as a straggler. And so I get in there and the room is full of maybe about 20 people of the age of 65 plus.
So you brought the average age of the room down by 305.
Pretty much, yeah.
Did it smell like wee?
No. We have classy people over here. How dare you?
Okay, wee and lavender.
Yes.
Right.
And violets.
Palmer violets.
And so I've gone in there, and there's board games out, so some of the kids are playing board games, and Kimmy went off and played Othello with a couple of friends and taught her how to play that. And I found a pack of cards, and so I sat down on my own. I had a cup of tea, nice bit of cake, and started playing solitaire with fucking cards. It's fucking amazing. I haven't done that since, 86 or something like that, I suppose. But I was sat there playing solitaire with cards, and this lady came over and went, Elton, do you mind? You've got a booming voice, haven't you?
Oh, no.
You what?
Voice.
A booming voice? I know him from many things, but not a booming voice.
Well, if I turn the volume up, maybe.
If I get very, very close.
Nice.
No. Yeah, and I looked at her and went, why? What do you want me to do? She went, well, we've got the raffle to read out. Oh, fucking hell. Okay. So I stood up and said, okay, how many do you want drawn? I'll just let you know when we've drawn enough. I went, okay, fine. So I stood up and started in my best booming voice, saying about we're going to be starting the raffle now. Everyone get all your tickets out and trying to do all the hosty sort of things as I tried to do. And straight away, there's 20 beady eyes just latch their look onto me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, shit.
You loved it.
No, this was scary because
yeah,
I started reading out these numbers.
Yeah.
Who's got 4, 1, 5? Nobody.
Or someone had
Next
died.
2, 3, 7. Nobody. And I did this for about 12. And nobody had these numbers. And I'm like, okay. And these beady eyes are getting squintier and squintier towards me. And I'm thinking, oh, God, someone just flipping win something. And then I called out another number, and one lady said, "Oh, yes, I've got that one." Okay, thank Christ. Someone's won something. Brilliant. So she goes off and collects her prize, and I pull out another number. Yeah. Same lady wins again. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Ouch.
And then I pull out another number, and it's the woman running the thing. Her number comes out. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So all these other ladies are just looking at me going, what is going on? This is a massive fix, or this is the worst raffle ever. And so I keep reading these numbers out. I must have got through about 20, I'd say. And just these 2 women have won. Just these 2 women. And then this lady comes over to me and says, okay, that's enough. We've run out of prizes now. I'm like, well, nobody's won anything. Nobody's won anything. And everyone got up and left very disappointed.
If only it was for the Alzheimer's Society, everyone would have had a lovely time. Sorry, carry on. 212. Oh, it could be you. I don't know, I've forgotten. Brilliant, you won. Sorry, carry on.
But yeah, it was just that brief moment of piercing eyes all locking onto me and me not having a booming voice and trying to do it, and then it just going horribly wrong where nobody wins.
You are the Brian Blessed of Yeldham.
You'd like to think so. Doesn't work that way though. I ain't ever doing that again. I'm never going to work in gala bingo whatsoever.
Oh, so. That's a dream. That's a dream quashed, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon I would have been quite good at that. But there we go. It's all gone.
What's 2 fat ladies?
Something about like a sexy rubber duck or something, innit? I don't know.
Oh, you're rubbish. Fucking rubbish. Oh, even I know that's 77. I mean 88. Sorry.
I believe the correct bingo call is 2 fat ladies just walked in.
Legs 11. I wish they didn't let that centipede in. Right, okay.
Legs akimbo.
Brilliant. Well, so you basically you took a Macmillan coffee morning and you ruined it for everyone, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Turned everyone's frown upside down and then back the other way again.
It's a roller coaster of emotions, that kind of event, isn't it?
It's horrible.
Anything else, sir?
No, that was it. That was the best I got for you.
Yeah, destroying the dreams of people, old people across Yeldham. I bet they hate you now. I bet they're sticking little pins in like effigies of you now. I wanted that tea set.
I'm just the raffle guy now. That's it.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Did you go into like newsagents and people just hissed at you as they walked out?
No, I've just kept my head down because I know what these people are like.
Yeah, you'll be in a Wicker Man before the end of the week.
Yep.
Burn him, sacrifice him to the bingo gods. Anyway, moving swiftly along. How are you, Darren?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm fine, thank you very much.
Yes.
Had a pretty good week this week, yeah. Had a little surprise suggestion for going out for a drink from Mr. Herc.
Oh, nice.
I didn't actually realise he was still here in this country. I thought he'd gone back to Canada. But no, still here. So yeah, that was good.
That's good.
Really enjoyable evening. We actually had a little miniature pub crawl We start. Where did we start off? We started off at the Imperial.
Yeah.
Then we went off to this. We went off to this. I think it was a Witherspoon's pub across the road from Five Guys. Actually,
yeah, I know that.
Not very far away. Near the Hippodrome and that. Went in there, and then we had to leave because it was too fucking loud. Above all of the seats in this place, they put like a fucking speaker, and then just turn the music up.
This. Do you want me to get the old man shouts at cloud music? Is this where this is going?
I don't. Well, I've had my. That's it. That's my little bit of old man shouts at cloud.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. I just thought I'd get ready.
Do you want me to do it again? Do you want to get the music?
No. You carry on, mate. You carry on. Go on.
Sure.
Yeah, it's fine. Go on. Carry on. You carry on.
I'm actually jonesing for the tune now. You might.
Are you? I'll tell you what. I'll do it for you anyway. How about that?
Yeah, you do that.
Darren's Feedback, sponsored by Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Do it quietly, though.
Oh, really? Okay, fair enough. Okay, theme. There you go. Hold on. Let's just get a 10-hour version. They got a 10-hour version on the YouTube now.
Have they?
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, actually, yeah, you might want to put that on.
Really? Okay.
No, we're fine. We're fine.
The 1 hour version. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just adjust it.
See, I feel right at home now.
There you go.
See?
Lovely. You carry on.
So, pub, go in there, speakers above every seat, full blast, can't hear a fucking word Herc saying at all. We are literally doing sign language across a small table that's about 2 foot square.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly semaphore,
about the quality of the sound.
The what, sorry?
Mostly talking about the quality of the sound.
The what, sorry?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
So, anyway, we finally left there and ended up at the Chandos, which is so we've gone back to the beginning. We've gone back to a bloody Blue Post pub in there.
Yeah.
Right, but this is where the moaning stops. You see? Yeah,
okay.
Because we were having a giggle at the prices in that place. Herc came back and he went, he handed put 2 pods on the table and he went, I've just paid $5 for those two.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What? Like real money?
Real money. £5 for 2 pints.
Wow. Was it
central fucking London? Was
it actually beer or was it just water that had been colorized?
No, it was their own brand. You know what it's like.
Yeah, urine.
Yeah. So, but no, most pleased with that. That's, you nice. Could do a trolley dash in there for a tenner. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it.
Keep an entire family of 4 fed on peanuts for a tenner. Yes. Nice.
Well, they do their own nuts and their own crisp as well. So, it's all the major food groups are covered.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. Party of 5 a day.
So your alcoholism is sort of keeping a pace. It's you haven't found any sort of waning yet. Your liver's not given up yet.
No, I'm taking a bit of a breather from it though. So, this week so far no drink, or at least since Monday.
Well,
anyway.
I was going to say it's only Tuesday.
Yeah, I know. And don't judge me.
Meanwhile, in the background.
Hold on while I open this can of cider.
Exactly.
And then this weekend I went off to see The Fiendish Dr. Will and Zarish, and spent some time around there, just eating and again drinking more.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the alcohol terms, I am the man from Atlantis.
Yeah. Episode 300 at this point is going to be an intervention, I think.
I think it will be.
Live from the Betty Ford Clinic.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, we're at 300 then, are we? About fucking time.
Yeah.
That'll be me.
Give me the fucking booze or I don't go on here.
So yes, that was good to see the pair of them there.
Cool.
But this week in TV watching, they finally released the second season on Amazon of Last Man on Earth.
Oh, right.
So I basically blitzed the entire 19 episodes in 2 days.
Oh, right. Nice.
So, I mean, they're only 20 minutes each, but, just couldn't get enough. And, yeah, absolutely brilliant. It's even better than it was last season. I think it's a show that's found its stride.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I've only watched like half of the first season, and I was kind of getting into it, but I don't know, something about it just doesn't click with me. But I'll try it again probably.
Well, it's the main guy himself. Just in the first season, nothing. His plans really to try and just please himself just never come to fruition. There's always something gets in the way, and it kind of builds to a climax at the end of that. But this show kind of turns that on its head. So the second half of it, or the second season. So I really can't wait to see the third one now, because it ends it in a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, fair enough.
Season 3, please hurry up and get onto Amazon.
I know they're filming it, so
they're actually showing it. I think now. Yeah, I think it came out a couple of weeks ago. Because they started it.
Because the guy who's on that was on Harmontown a few months ago, saying about how he was, in production. So I was thinking it'd be done by now, or on its way.
Talking of Harmontown, I did actually see Spencer on the cop show. Brooklyn 99.
Yes, 911.
Yes, 911. Sorry, yeah. Brooklyn 911. Yeah, he was on that.
Yeah, cool. Excellent.
Just a bit part. Spencer turned up there. It was like, I recognise you.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's brilliant. Cool. Anything else, sir?
No, I think that was about it, really.
Right, okay. Well, my week has just been basically work, coffee, work, coffee, work, coffee, work, coffee, coffee, work, coffee, coffee, work, coffee, work, coffee, work, coffee, and work. And maybe some sleep. But the other thing which happened to me this week was that I took a dog. We look after a dog, Ellie, and on Saturday I thought, well, we had to drop Carol off at a thing she was going to, and then on the way home I said, let's take the dog for a walk. We'll take the kids out, go walking around. Katie can do a Pokemon thingy, around a big park, and that's all lovely. Anyway, as you know, dogs, when they're out for a walk, they go for a poo, don't they?
Oh, they certainly do. Yes,
they certainly do. So, but I'm prepared. I'm a man fully prepared for the dog poo experience. I have mastered getting a black bag over my hand like a glove in reverse, and then you put it on the poo, and then you roll the bag down. You pick it all up. Job's a good one. Yeah,
and you feel how warm it is.
Keeps your fingers warm. That's lovely.
It's great in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can only get
pocket
better.
Warmer.
Exactly.
Do it yourself.
Exactly.
Completely green.
But the thing was, this week took her out. She went for a poo, but the problem was she was so desperate for a poo, the dog, that basically she went for a poo on someone's drive, because we literally parked sort of beside someone's drive, which is the entrance to the car park. And so she literally jumped out the car and immediately went for a poo, like one step down from the car, which was on this person's drive, which was in front of this person's drive.
Great.
So I'm like, okay, fair enough, here we go. And the person was like standing in the doorway, and I'm like, oh crap. So what I did was I'm like, no, actually it's all fine, sorted. I looked at the guy, I'm like, sorry, and I got the bag, and I put the bag over the poo, but it was a sloppy one. Okay? Oh,
lovely.
So I grabbed what I could, but because the guy was standing there, I thought, well, I've got to put the little bit extra mile in. So I pinched it up, and I rubbed my hands on the sort of affected space, if you know what I mean. What I hadn't noticed was that by rubbing the plastic on the ground, the roughness of the ground had basically torn through the plastic. And the poo had gone all over my fingers through the hole.
Beautiful.
This I didn't discover, however, until after I walked 2 steps away, took my hand away from the bag, and sneezed. As I raised my fingers to my nose and pinched my nose with dog shit over my fingers.
Lovely.
Yeah. I literally went, achoo, ah! Standing there. Unfortunately, I didn't have a second bag to take care of the dog shit on my nose or on my fingers. So what I had to do was kind of wipe off my nostrils and then basically walk as fast as I could to the nearest public toilets in the park, which was fine, but I'm pretty sure I had a big smear of brown shit on my nose. So I was walking around sort of looking like the world's worst uninspiring clown from like...
Were there no dock leaves around? Oh, no, that's stinging nettles, isn't it?
Exactly.
Shit.
I tried a bit of Bear Grylls. I went past a couple of leaves which had some sort of rainwater sort of cupped in them, and I sort of tried to wash a bit off, but all that seemed to do was kind of spread it a bit.
Hey kids, look, it's Mr. Shitnose the Clown.
Shitnose the Clown, here I go. Shitnose the Clown. Yeah, so that was basically my dog walking experience. I did manage to make it to the toilet without throwing up and washing it off, but the public toilets don't have any soap, so all I really did was just put water on the shit on my nose and just kind of wash it off, sort of making very careful that my face was pointing directly down into the basin so the water didn't run into my beard.
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, that was fun. So, yeah, but apart from that, literally all I have been doing is building a fucking stadium for the World Cocking Cup. That has been my job. That has been my job morning, noon, and fucking night. And it's literally been like going to bed at stupid o'clock every fucking night because the fucking model that I got given was fucking 20 times too fucking dense with fucking polygons and fucking shit that needed fucking clearing up because some fucking idiot gave it to me.
2,000 years later.
And then I get... Oh! I've been drinking a lot of coffee.
You've done the right stadium, haven't you? Not the wrong one.
Yes, I've done the right stadium, Elton. Thank you very much. Okay. I didn't do your bloody Minecraft stadium. Thank you very much for that as well.
I wasn't going with that. I was just wondering whether... Because it's for the Qatar World Cup, isn't it?
That's right. It's the Qatar World Cup. And basically, what we're doing for it is all the cooling systems and everything. And we got this there's a novel design to the roof and all sorts of aircon and chilled water and all this kind of interesting stuff. Just taking models from a design package that's designed to make things in sort of architecturally into Maya, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work without turning the model into a bunch of broken biscuits. 28 million polygons for a fucking stadium, which is essentially a bowl with seats. But anyway.
28 million
polygons.
One for you.
Yes.
One for me. One for you.
Basically, if you did a dot to dot of a stadium, you'd just draw a circle and it'd probably be about 40 lines, wouldn't it? It would be like you drawing 40 lines and then basically scribbling inside the gap and then saying, for about an hour, and then saying, that's a stadium. That's what I got. That's what I got given.
I get the feeling that the coffee's talking now.
do you reckon? I don't. Oh, and I tell you what else has been good. This week and last week, outside Charing Cross, was it that Turo fucking energy drink people, the ones that have just released a new one called Churro or Chubo or Chundo or Chandos or Chibli or whatever the fuck it is, they've been dealing out free ones. I've had lots. It's lovely. But the thing is, it does taste just like Red Bull. It's just in two different cans. One says it's sugar-free, one says it's not. The sugar-free one tastes exactly like the one that isn't. That's because I think the one that isn't sugar-free doesn't have any sugar in it, and the one that is sugar-filled doesn't have any sugar in it either. I think they just changed the can colour. But it's very tasty, and it's in big cans.
What, like the big cans?
Yeah.
Monster.
Yeah,
Blimey.
big cans.
Yeah.
Big cans. Big cans. And they hand them out 2 at a time. So it's great. So I've had 2.
Fabulous. One for each ear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One to stick up my arse, so I'll have a nice little insert thing to stick a broom up, and then I can sweep the floor on the way round while doing the rest of my job. Anywho, I'm going to stop talking.
Energy drink, chloric irrigation.
Yeah,
lovely.
Why not? Yeah. You just go for a poo faster, surely. Right, moving on. Let's move on to this week's movie. This week's movie is Halloween. Yes, let's do that, shall we?
Certainly.
Yes, why not?
Fantastic. Get ready for the nudie lady jingle thing. Run the jingle. Ooh, nudie lady.
Oh, look at the nudie ladies.
Dance, nudie ladies.
Ladies.
Look at the nudie ladies
Nudies.
dancing.
Oh, yeah.
dance, nudie ladies.
No clothes, no, totally nudie.
Totally nudie, dancing in front of the flames.
No bras.
No. Oh, anyway.
Here's the tissues.
Well, there you go. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's our 4 weeks of horror theme, which is based around Tales of the Unexpected. So you millennials, Google it. Right, moving on. So, Halloween. Halloween is a 1978 American independent slasher film directed and scored by John Carpenter, co-written by Deborah Hill and starring Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis in her film debut. The film was the first installment of what has become a Halloween franchise. The plot was based in a fictional Midwestern town of Haddonfield, Illinois, and on Halloween night in 1963, a 6-year-old Michael Myers inexplicably murders his sister and is committed. 15 years later, he escapes and returns home to kill again. All the while eluding his psychiatrist, Dr. Sam Loomis, who suspects Michael's intentions and follows him back to Haddonfield. Halloween was produced for a budget of $300,000 and at the time grossed $47 million at the box office. But in total, what has it actually made? Darren?
90 million.
Okay. Jim?
200 million.
And Elton?
210 million.
Well, actually, Darren was closest. It actually ended up making 70 million worldwide.
Wow.
Which is roughly the equivalent of 2016 money of 267 million. But, yeah, it's all related. Many critics credit the film as being the first in a long line of slasher films that were inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And Halloween has had many imitators and originated a number of cliches in low-budget horror films of the 1980s and 1990s. Unlike its imitators, Halloween contained very little graphics, violence and gore, and was one of the first horror films to introduce the concept of a killer dying and coming back to life again repeatedly within the same film. In 2006, it was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And some critics have suggested that Halloween may encourage sadism and misogyny by audiences identifying with its villain. Other critics suggest that the film's social critique of immorality of youth and teenagers in 1970s America, with Myers' victims being sexually promiscuous and substance abusers, while the lone heroine is depicted as an innocent, pure, and hence a survival. Nevertheless, Carpenter dismisses such analysis, and several of Halloween's techniques and plot elements, though not founded in this film, have nevertheless become the standard of slasher movie tropes. Halloween has spawned 7 sequels and a reboot by Rob Zombie. That's my Rob Zombie impression. And one sequel which was set, Halloween was set directly afterwards, which was a direct sequel, but all the rest are just spin-offs. Anyway, let's leave it there. Right, so let's go around the table, see how what everyone thought of this. So, Elton, what did you think of Halloween, and where was you on the potato scale?
Oh, okay, right. I'll come to the potato scale, but I'm pretty sure you'll work it out very soon anyway.
Okay.
Halloween. There are good points and there are bad points for this. I would like to go through the good points first. The music. Mm-hmm. I thought it was that classic Carpenter. See, I can't even hum it now. I can't even think of it. But that.
Yeah. Sorry.
There you go. The signature to this film. It's so good, especially when it kicks in, and it subtly kicks in as well. It's just you're really drawn into it. I like. There was a lot of handheld camera movements, which added to the atmosphere of it. It had an almost you were in the room type feeling. There was no real panning around on dollies or anything like that. It was all handheld moving in, and it gave it an edge. It really did give it a subtle edge of a nervousness.
Yeah.
It just added something to it. I felt. I liked that with Mike as well, you get
Mike.
The back. Is it Mike? No, sorry, not Mike. Who am I thinking about?
You talking about Michael Myers?
Yes.
It's just funny. You're just on familiar terms with him. You know, me and my mate Mike.
Or you can call him the Shape. That is how he is credited.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Shape.
Oh, I like that. Anyway, me and Mike.
Me and Mike. Mikey. Oh, Mike-arino.
Yeah, I like the way. I like the first person aspect in the very beginning. The way that he kills his sister. Wasn't expecting that at all. That was really good. I have seen this before, but I have no recollection of me actually watching it.
Can I ask you a question, Elton? In that starting sequence, did you get that the point of view was from a kid?
Not
good question.
Until the reveal.
Nice.
So I've seen this so many times, and when I was watching this time, I did wonder, kind of. Because I remember that was a real surprise for me, but I wondered, is it really obvious? It is a kid doing it, but actually, I've seen that much, and I couldn't tell anymore. So I'm glad that worked.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it to me. I remember once it was revealed, thinking about it and thinking, well, he was quite tall for when he was outside the house, but it didn't really play into this is definitely a kid straight away. So yeah, I was totally fooled on that. That was a good start to the thing. It's got good atmosphere, but it's very dated, which I'm expecting for this. But I like the slow build. I like it. It reminded me of your comments, Lee, when we watched Home Alone. Yeah. Where you said it's an hour and a bit of build up, 20 minutes of fucking around at the end, and then it's all over.
Yeah.
It's very much on par with that. And
Halloween is Home Alone template. I thought it was slasher template, but actually,
there was another film that it reminded me of. I can't remember at the moment, but Home Alone was the one that really sat in my head because of the massive build-up. I like the long, drawn build-up thing. You don't get that much nowadays. It's too much, crash, bang, wallop. We need action straight away in our eyes. And you don't have that slow build-up of tension and the Michael Myers standing like at a fence or something like that in the background. The way he disappears as well in shots. I thought that really works really, really well. I like the way you had the build-up in the very beginning of him, but also when he killed one of the boyfriends and somehow he pinned this boyfriend about a foot up in the air with a blade which was only about 6 inches long. And clearly it just pinned him straight through to a door. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, no, that's never going to happen. But I'll go with it. And then you had Michael Myers just looking at him.
Yeah.
And sussing him out. And it was as if like he was trying to work out, does he feel anything? Is it hurting? And I thought that was a really nice touch. You don't normally get that. You get the kill and then it cuts to something else.
Yeah.
But you had the kill, and then you had the killer thinking about his actions and what had happened there.
Or
that was a really nice touch, I thought.
Yeah, or he was sitting there looking at thinking the same thing as you, going, how did he stay up there?
Is he going to fall down?
I'm sure that door's not strong enough.
And now, no. And now, no. Oh.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
But I thought that was a really nice touch, especially when he come into the room and he's got the ghost, the sheet. And I'm thinking, okay, we've got Michael Myers who's in a mask, and then he's put another disguise on. So we've got a killer with 2 disguises on at the moment. Has that ever been done? Has that ever been done in a horror movie? Where the killer has 2 disguises on. I can't think of anything.
Jim?
I'm sure it has been done before where the killer has donned the disguise to get close to the victims and they mistake him for somebody else.
Mm.
And it's that kind of, it's probably in a Hitchcock or something like that. But it's something you don't often see.
Yeah.
Particularly in this kind of film, anyway.
No. But, yeah. No, that was quite a nice reveal. We were just standing there pretending to be a ghost.
He's got the guy's glasses on.
Yeah.
It's at that point where I'm thinking, okay, is this for me, there's no hint of supernatural actions here. I still don't know whether this is supernatural because he's killed a number of times, and yet it's not established what is going on. And I found that a bit wanting at times.
Yeah.
Really to establish these are the rules. I know nowadays we just want the rules spelled out for us and so we know exactly what we're going into. But it just wasn't that clear. Is it supernatural? Okay, if it is supernatural, then he's got presence of mind to cut holes in a sheet and put that over his head and then put his latest murder victim and his glasses on. Okay. It's losing its way ever so slightly.
Unless Loomis is right and he really is the devil's eyes. It is the devil.
Right, so...
Well, the thing is with Michael, though, he's the template for 1,000 masked brutes in slasher movies. But if you watch Halloween, all the way through, he's thinking out what he's doing.
Yeah.
You don't quite understand why he's doing it, what the point... It means something to him. It's ritualistic, but he is a thinking killer. And that kind of thing of I will pretend to be the boyfriend and just walk into the bedroom and get her.
Yeah, makes things easier.
That makes him more effective for me because this is kind of, as Loomis says, it's someone who's inhumanly patient who has plotted this out and is capable of, he's not just, ooh, me kill you, ugh. This is a killer who's thinking it out. Really, cat and mousing his victims.
He's also doing it with a bit of a sense of humour as well. He's like, I know what will make her laugh. Well, actually, it won't, but it'll make me laugh. Yeah.
Wait, he can get close wearing that disguise, can't he?
Yeah. But I think it's also sorry, jumping in here, Elton, but Michael Myers obviously has something about Halloween. And this is obviously appeals to his sense of celebrating Halloween in a twisted, insane, killer fashion.
Yeah.
I'll pretend to be the boyfriend, pretending to be a ghost. And I can get right up close to her. She'll never see that going.
Yeah. Surprise! Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was very good. One thing that did tickle me is the reason why he's stalking, is it Laurie? It's because she went up to the door of the Myers residence. And that's the only reason, that's the only thing I could work out that he's stalking her.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. She trespassed.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into it, the sequels try to tie it in more to the fact in some respect that she's related.
Right, okay.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that thing of less you know, kind of the weirder it is. So again, the fact that you don't really know why Michael's doing it, other than just he's doing it, which is why that bloody remake by Rob Zombie, which kind of spent more time trying to explain Myers and what he did, just completely falls flat, because it's like, well, I know why he's doing it. Why, that's kind of less scary. Suddenly, you're not sitting there imagining he's going to be outside the door. He's going to be outside the door if you're somehow related to this family in some way and doing something in a specific set of order. It's just like, for God's sakes.
Yeah, maybe I'm just wanting a little bit more explanation on this.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't know where I stand with it. That's the thing, though, because there were certain things I really did like. Other bits, I just found a bit odd. He's driving around in a car in broad daylight in the town past the police, and yet nobody else is noticing this at all. Nobody else is noticing. I know it's Halloween, but ain't it a bit weird? I don't know.
Well, presumably he wasn't driving around in the mask. He has that much sense, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I thought he was. When he pulled out of that junction behind the policeman.
No, he wasn't.
No, I don't. We ever actually see him in the car. It's only kind of because later on you have the scene where they stop and the sheriff says, "How are you girls doing?" And this store's been broken into. He's took some rope, some knives, and a Halloween mask. And so presumably in the early scenes he doesn't actually have the mask on. And he's just wandering, tooling around in the car. I mean, my take on why he goes after Laurie is the fact that he's seen her go at the house, but he's really just gunning for any sort of kids in that neighborhood, because he gets Annie first, her friend.
Yeah.
And he also stalks Tommy. He follows him in the car when he spots him.
Yeah.
And it's kind of anyone near his house can, he's for the chop if he can get them.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. But, well, I mean, like I say, the sequels tried to explain it and that made things worse, to be honest. But, yeah, I mean, I always got the sense Myers was just kind of trying to recreate his original murder thing with his sister, and it's interesting that two of the female victims, or if you count Jamie Lee Curtis, were blonde females of the same age as his sister. And I think it started off as like, actually he's going for her, but then it's just the others by association get roped in.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyway, so where are we on the potato scale, do you reckon?
It's not very high at all. No? It really isn't. It just hasn't got... It doesn't feel fully fleshed out to me. By today's standards of film, it hasn't got that power for me. And so there was a moment where I was, this is getting really good, when... Jamie Lee Curtis goes into the other house and starts wandering around the house, and then you have him punching through the slatted doors. I thought that was very good. But when she stabs him with a knitting needle, that was quite easy, wasn't it? All we need is a knitting needle. Excellent. And it doesn't work for me. I didn't really feel scared at all. So this is very low. I would give it maybe a 2.
So like a parboiled potato, not really even a roasty.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's move on to you then, Jim. How did you find Halloween on this rewatch?
Well, I can't honestly tell you how many times I've watched this movie over the years. It's one I try not to go back to too often. I don't watch it every Halloween. I did watch it last Halloween, which is the first time in quite a while, and obviously revisited it more sooner than I would normally do for this show. Having said that, kind of putting out all the lights,
yeah,
and just sitting in front of the TV, phone off, everything off, complete darkness. I mean, this time I know it is, by modern standard, it is slow. Yeah. But I don't mind that, because I think they put in just enough sort of little moments of unease as you go along. It is roughly every 10 minutes he sort of turns up, and you have this sort of... It builds this atmosphere, and it never states it, but it's not going to kick off until nightfall.
Yeah.
And then when it does, when Halloween night does actually come, and it really goes for it. I think it's still just tremendously just well done and well constructed. One thing I noticed this time is kind of watching it on the latest remastered Blu-ray is kind of this film, for a low budget movie, looks far better than it has any right to. And the way, I think it's a truly beautifully shot film and just expertly crafted. And it actually made me jump twice, and I've seen this, so it caught me out twice. I go, Carpenter, you fucking bastard. I forgot about that. And when I got to the end, I was kind of actually really just quite buzzing, as it were, you know what I mean? Kind of like, oh, I really did it. I really got into that again, you know, and just, thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I know I have a big, obviously, like a nostalgic connection to it, but at the same time, I think this film just has something about it. A lot of it is the way Carpenter shoots it, and the music is brilliant. I mean, what struck me, what makes that score so effective is the fact the main theme, you've got the which is really fast, which sort of, it's a nervous rhythm.
Yeah.
A nervous tempo. But then you have these long, slow, brooding dun, dun, dun chords that come in under it.
Yeah.
And that that contrast just works so well for, being kind of very sort of, fast-paced and nervous, but also slow and brooding at the same time, which I think really, probably, I think, for my money, it's one of the better scores ever done for a film. It just fits the film so well like a glove and just brings out so much of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I mean, I noticed a lot in this viewing. I mean, because I know the making of this film. I know they were shooting in the spring. And so they actually had to hire big bags of dead leaves, which they strew around on the set.
Nice.
And because they were hired, they had to pick them up and account for every leaf, so it didn't cost them money because they only could afford so many bags.
Bloody hell.
But even knowing that, it kind of the film does just evoke kind of autumn in a small town. Even I know when I look, I can see most of the trees aren't going, yellow, amber, and red. But it's the fact that they have those dead leaves and they use a little bit of wind in the scenes and have dead leaves, rolling down the street in the breeze. They have the characters in jumpers and cardies and overcoats, and you just get that feeling of that kind of, October. There's just a end of summer chill in the air, and that just works, kind of so well, I think, to evoke kind of the spirit of the season.
Yeah.
What else did I notice? I noticed kind of, it's interesting that the way Michael is portrayed. I say you launched 1,000 other hulking killers, but there's a deliberate sort ofness to him, and also the way that Nick Castle, who plays Michael as the Shape, which is like Michael in The Mask, the way he actually moves, you do actually get a sense that he's being almost puppeted by something.
Yeah. And
the way he sort of moves with his arms sort of flailing when Loomis shoots him at the end, he's very like a marionette.
Yeah.
And one of my favourite scenes is where you think he's dead for the second time, and Laurie stands up, and you see him just sit up bolt upright.
Yeah.
And as she stands up, he stands up in the background. And it is just like a puppet being brought back to life. And that is just so creepy. And just the way Carpenter shoots a great scene of in the house of where Laurie's standing in this dark doorway, and you just see the mask slowly appear behind her. Oh. Like a moon coming out of the background behind the clouds. And it's kind of like, fucking hell, that's good. That's, I mean, kind of like I said about that Das Boot, this is one of these films that's so well shot. It's kind of, you really just, the way it's composed, you could take pretty much any sort of still in this film, and it makes a beautiful, like, Norman Rockwell painting for Halloween. It's just really just well put together like that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that struck me on this viewing is about the end. Now, the old, the killer's not dead. I imagine that's going to fall flat for a lot of people because we've seen it so many times. And a lot in this movie will fall flat for people if they've not seen it before because they've seen it, 10th generation versions of this. And it's, done a lot of these things to death and turn them into cliches. But the thing with the killer coming back at the end, it still always gives me a shiver. And this time I put my finger on what it was, is you have that, there's two things. It's one, when Loomis looks down and the body's gone, he doesn't say anything, but Laurie senses it.
Yeah.
And she starts crying. And it's kind of, oh God, it's not over. But then you have that montage of shots of the house in the neighborhood and empty streets and other houses, and you just hear that breathing.
Yeah.
And I think that just what all the other films that rip off that the killer's not dead ending, what they don't do is that bit, which says, he's not dead. He could be anywhere.
Yeah, he's
in fact,
prowling.
He might be in your house when you get home.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It is that ominous kind of, he's not dead. He's still around, and he's just biding his time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can come back. Pleasant dreams. Yeah. Safe ride home, folks. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Good night, everybody.
Which really works the first time round, but as you say, once it's been copied many, many times, it kind of dilutes it, doesn't it?
But
it does totally. But most others, it's just kind of, he's not dead, and that's because he's coming back in the sequel. Whereas here, he's not dead because they had no idea. They thought he would make money, but they had no idea he was going to launch a 10-film franchise. And they hoped it would do well, but there was no thought of a sequel. And this is kind of, it's not over. He could be anywhere. Is he in your house now?
Yeah.
And it's that's that last montage. That's just
and just
puts seeds that idea in people's minds. I think just very cleverly and very subtly. I mean, it's one I think that's something that has been lost now. But and I say, but that's the thing. No one else copies. Now it is. If they're not dead, it is because number 2's already in the works to be rushed out.
Or a shock reveal of it, the bad guy right at the very end.
Yes, the kind of, and he's not the last tedious scare, as I call it. Oh.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, the carry hand or the Jason coming out the water kind of thing, yeah. Never mind. But enough about those moments, because those make me cross. Cool. Okay. Well, so overall, generally a thumbs up for you, sir.
Yes, I mean, I still think it's a wonderful movie, and I think kind of even if it doesn't work for you, I think as Elton said, you appreciate the craft, and there's things in it that you don't see in all the imitators that have come since.
Yeah, definitely. Okie dokie. Well, then moving on to you, Mr. B. How was your time in Haddonfield?
How was my time? Yeah.
Okay.
But I spent some time there. I'll say straight off the bat, I wasn't particularly scared or anything by this film.
Okay.
If anything, I sat there swearing at it quite a few times. Like, why would you open the fucking window of your car if you see someone jumping onto the roof and you're near a mental asylum? You fucking idiot.
Okay.
So you're coming from the Scream version of this then?
Yeah.
No, I'm just coming from the what the fuck are you doing angle of it. That's what I'm coming from. Oh, okay. I've just stuck this bloke in the neck with a knitting needle and I'm just going to go to sleep on the sofa. I'm not going to drop a fucking safe on his head, which I should be doing, I will, I'm not going to chop his head off, which I should do. I'm just going to trust the fact that this one tiny little knitting needle has taken him out of the game.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, he never got up after that first time. She didn't know. That was the first time he went.
In fairness, she hasn't seen 40 years of slasher films either that has programmed us to this. In the same way, if there's a zombie apocalypse, we're all going to the fucking mall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we'll shoot them all in the head.
Yeah.
What's that phrase? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That. Yeah. And then she takes him out the second time. You think then, she'd have a bit of common sense and think, right, okay, this fucker might not be dead. Okay, so it's the whole thing of, finding the bodies and standing near doorways as well. It's like, and the way they've angled the shot so you can see the entire doorway, it's like, yeah, something's going to come out of there in a minute.
But in fairness, again, that
she can't see the shot, can she?
No, she can't. But it's just, I don't know. And fucking hell, what was that noise that kept coming out of her fucking mouth? If you're going to scream, scream. Take a shit or get off the pot,
Wow.
This is it. Well, it's like at the beginning as well, right? Okay, you've got Michael Myers walks into the house and sort of like, you'd think he was fucking tickling her with a feather duster.
Right.
But it's like, I think people scream a lot more when they get stabbed. She was just like, that smarts. It's just stuff like that, The only bit I liked was where she, and this is going back to her stupidity again, when she's standing by the doorway and you do, as you said, Jim, where you see his face materialise out of the darkness.
Mm.
I thought that was good. I like that.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, just out of interest? Because do you actually like slasher movies in as a rule anyway? Not trying to dismiss what you're saying. I'm just asking just whether or not they just irritate you in general.
I don't really watch slasher films, right? Because they're all the same. That's it. Literally, they're all the same. Especially since this film, it's like, the whole thing of we've hit him, we've shot him with a gun, we've done this, we've pushed him off a 12-story block of flats, and oh look, he's got up again.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. I mean,
there's no chance of winning in this. It's not like, I don't know, maybe I've seen too many of them. It's a trope that's been used far too many times.
Yeah, but that's the problem. You're kind of going back to year zero. You're going back to patient zero, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm actually just looking at this sort of like, this film through adult eyes because I don't really remember it that well. I don't remember him driving around.
No.
I thought it was just like he walked around and it's like, I don't remember him getting in a car. I don't remember him having a full-on driving licence.
He can't
go
drive.
for the BSM school of fucking knife-wielding maniac driving school type thing. I don't remember any of that.
I mean, that's another one of those things which I kind of lend to the supernatural. Which sounds a bit weird, the devil taught him to drive. But the point...
I was going to say, so his abilities include taking a lot of damage and being able to do the perfect 3-point turn. Is that what you were saying?
Parallel parking.
Exactly, yeah. Well, he's shit hot on that as well.
Trust me, he can go in backwards into a drive-through on McDonald's without a problem. Yeah. No, it's just the fact that there's bits in it where he apparently seemingly has no idea, should have no skills, but yet
he's
somehow
just such a careful driver. I mean, Jesus Christ, if he, those little apps that you can buy now for cars to show you're a careful driver, his insurance would be amazing. His no claims bonus, whoa, there you go. He might be like a mass murderer, but Jesus Christ, yes, that's intact.
Yeah, the only problem is Go Compare would probably look at his sort of previous and then ask what his career path was and probably not approve him.
What do you do for a living? Butcher.
Yeah. Fair enough. Oh dear. Go on in.
I'm a dab hand with a bacon slicer.
Yeah, I'm on the meat counter. Meat counter at Sainsbury's. Okay. So you weren't impressed by this at all?
I remember the second one being... maybe this is just a memory playing tricks on me again. I think the second one was, like, for me, was the one I remember a lot more. I enjoyed that one a lot more. But then again, I could watch that and think, what the hell was I talking about?
Yeah, I think you might. If this doesn't work for you, then the second one's even worse. That's when you get into the silly deaths, like sort of death by boiling jacuzzi and that kind of shit. Which is just unbelievably piss poor. It's like the jacuzzi is boiling and he's going to put his hand on her head and push her under the water so she not only drowns but she also boils alive and it doesn't boil his hand. And just novelty deaths. No.
Yeah.
Just say no. But anyway.
Did you notice the continuity error as well between Little Michael and Big Michael?
Go on.
Little Michael's a blonde, Big Michael's a brunette.
Well, in fairness, I was a blonde when I was 6.
Were you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so was I. I started off blonde.
And so was Lisa.
It got darker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. All right, I concede that point.
In your face, genetics.
Exactly. But I suppose it says something that I'm noticing hair colour rather than somebody being like hacked to death. Do you use Timotei? You know?
Your locks are so shiny and smooth. What's your secret?
Lustrous. So yeah, you know, I appreciate that it started off an entire trend, and it's also curse you for starting off that entire trend as well, because you know, it got old real quickly.
Well, clearly, because everything you've moaned about is something that's been repeated in several thousand other slasher movies since.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, the only way that really I enjoy a slasher movie is if they do something with it, you know, try and do something a little bit unusual. And which is what, I mean, I still haven't seen it yet, but I still want to see Behind the Mask. That one. It's one that you recommended, Jim, on Hypnobobs.
Yes.
Many thousands of years ago, which is why I bought it. I've still got that sitting on the shelf. So, yes, I'm going to give that a blast at some point.
Well, I was going to say, what was the last slasher movie that you actually enjoyed?
I think the very first Scream movie.
Yeah. Okay.
That one, just because that kind of took all that apart and, you know, looked at it from that, a different angle.
Okay.
But even that's worn thin now because everyone else has tried to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. So it's not really that the film's bad, it's just the tropes are just worn thin for you, is that?
I think so, and somebody acted in Halloween is quite fucking shocking as well.
Yeah, I'll get to that in my my feedback, but yeah. Okay, cool. Well, there you go. This opens it all up now, because when we get some bad feedback and someone apologises, we can go, no, we're all diversifying our opinions.
Exactly. This is it. It's what we're about.
This is what we're about.
Diversity.
Yes, exactly. For me, this film is a game of two halves. On the one hand, there is some excellent atmosphere, some fantastic scenes and superb shots, and you can definitely see a bit like sort of Spielberg with Jaws, and you know, George Lucas with THX 1138 and American Graffiti. You can see the start of something. You can see the start of a director that's going to turn into something good. You know what I mean? You can kind of see all these kind of things which you wouldn't expect in a low budget movie, and you think, okay, that's really nice, really clever. The way the shots have been set up, the way that the whole thing's being directed, the way the tension's built, the way that he doesn't fall back on gore. There is the only bit of blood you really see is when Michael basically nicks her arm with the knife. Which, you know, in modern day slashers, there'd be fucking blood all the way up the walls. You know, there'd be limbs falling off the ceiling.
Yeah.
So, for me, this film is a masterclass in building atmosphere and tone, and in the terms of the shape, Michael Myers, whatever you want to call him, I think he's a genuinely creepy villain because he is relentless. He's the Terminator before the Terminator. That whole idea of he's not going to stop, he's not going to run after you, he's just going to keep going. And especially that bit when Laurie basically runs across from Annie's house and is basically knocking on the door trying to get the kids to wake up. And you can just see Michael slowly walking across. He's just taking his time, walking across the street, and the music's kind of building up. And it's like, okay, that's kind of touching a sort of nerve for me, because I always used to, when I was a kid, I always used to hate the old idea of, you know, going up the stairs in the dark or coming down the stairs in the dark, because there would be something there that was just implacable and so there's that shot with Michael at the top of the stairs after Laurie's fallen down them. You know, and he's just standing there, you know, just sort of bracing himself to come down the stairs. Shots like that, the fact, you know, the foreman mentioned one when he sits up behind her, and all these things, I was there watching them on VHS, Betamax, when they first came out, And I was like, that is just terrifying. So I can't separate. I can't get myself away from that. I when I look at other slasher movies, I only see Halloween with some shit stuck on top of it. So I don't go. I don't come at it in that sort of way of, oh, this is boring. This, not that you said it was boring, but oh, this is a silly trope. This is a silly trope, because actually I'm sitting there thinking, well, no, this is what I was seeing when I was like 10, going, fucking move, he's coming up behind you, and all that sort of thing of hiding in a cupboard, which kids would do, hide in a cupboard, or that thing of kids running away and finding the parents are scared, which happens with Laurie when she sees Michael and she says, get in the cupboard, lock the door, don't come out, sort of thing. So all of that stuff really played into my fears. And while it didn't frighten me this time round, because I've seen it so many times, and so I was kind of expecting it, it still left me slightly disquieted, because I watched it last night, and I just finished some work, unsurprisingly, and it was like 1 a.m, and so I'm lying there in bed with the duvet up over my head, watching it on my phone, on my iPad, literally lying there in the dark, and I've got my headphones on, and every now and again I'm having to take my headphones off just to make sure there's nothing kind of creaking on the stairs. And so to me that makes it really effective. What didn't work for me this time goes back to your feedback, Dal, where basically some of the acting in this is pure 70s low budget shit.
Yeah.
And Annie, which the film kind of concentrates on for a little while, does this kind of sleight of hand of kind of you constantly following her until she gets bumped off, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, and now we're back to Laurie because she's actually the main protagonist. It tries to use Annie, and Annie is not a good actress by any conceivable measure at all. Every word that comes out of her mouth literally drops to the floor with a thud, and kind of gets delivered in this kind of, okay, I'll ask you, go on, Dow, ask me a question and I'll reply like Annie.
So what's your favourite biscuit?
Oh, custard creams are my favourite biscuit. What's yours?
Chocolate digestive.
Chocolate digestive? That always just seemed to be a complete delivery. She'd miss a cue by about 1.5 miles, deliver the line like an automaton, like one of those fucking speak and spell machines. And then when you asked her a question, she'd add a little lilt to every line. It's like, oh, for the love of fucking God, someone bump her off. And so when she did get bumped off, I was kind of like, that was actually one moment where I'm kind of like, yeah. And she didn't even have the decency to just die properly. She had she got throttled. And then not only did she get throttled, but just as she's going down, and I'm thinking, wow, this is actually still quite an effective thing, because it's that old thing of the guy in the back seat. I was listening to Jim's Hitting the Bobs today about urban legends, and that whole thing of the person in the house, and the other thing of like there's a person in the back seat of the car,
the killer in the back seat of the car,
exactly, and that still made me jump and like, oh God, that's horrible. That's why I hate it when Carol doesn't lock the car door. It's like, I still have that feeling when I get in the car at night. And yet this time round it was going really well again, and the whole thing of discovering condensation on the inside of the windows. But when she died, she did this weird sticking her tongue out cross-eyed thing, wiping a nostril up the window, and I'm like, oh, you've overdone it. You've over-egged the pudding. We could have cut that a little bit earlier, and that would have been fine. But you turned it into this kind of comedy death thing. It's like, what's it? It's like the Romeo and Juliet scene in Hot Fuzz. I'm literally expecting her to jump up and go, love me, da-da-da-da-da, oi! Just play out on a sort of pantomime high. And the same thing happened also on the scene when you get the reveal of Michael as a child. He comes out, and the reveals of Michael as a child, and you're thinking, wow, that's a great reveal, fantastic reveal. And the camera pans out, and he's standing there holding a blood-dripping knife. and the two parents come in from either side, and they just stop and look at him as if to say, that's an interesting statue. I wonder what the plaque is on the foot of that statue. I wonder. And they just stand there doing this kind of weird pose. And you kind of get the feeling that that shot should have ended, or the parents should have come in and gone, fuck, and then run into the house, or grabbed hold of the kid or something. But it just went on a little bit too long, and you kind of realised that the parents were standing on either side doing basically fuck all.
I think that shot hadn't really been developed at that time, though, had it?
No. I'm just saying it's just things I noticed this time. I mean, I still think it's a great reveal, and I still think the impact of it is very good. But I still, this time round, I was sitting there looking. I was just watching them, and I'm like, they're not moving. Why aren't they looking at the kid? What are they doing? They're just.
You know what? That scene, right? Okay, I think that shows a family trait of being really underwhelmed by shit going on. Okay, she was underwhelmed about being stabbed to death. Like, and they're like, oh, was he done?
Oh dear.
Oh, looks like I think he's off someone.
But the rest of the film, I really enjoyed. I mean, like I say, there were a few tropes that I kind of look back on now, and I kind of go, would someone please just close a fucking door? You know, just once. Yeah, everyone runs into a house and leaves the back door open. Runs into a house, leaves the front door open. And then the instant they need to escape, those same doors are bolted, locked, and got some sort of bulletproof glass have been replaced. But even then, I'm sitting there still saying, I don't care, because I'm sitting there going, get out of the house, he's getting closer, he's walking towards you very slowly. And so, on that note, it does work. I mean, it's kind of a hard one to really judge. I think if I was to come at this for the first time ever, the fact that the bad acting is bad, but the good acting from Donald Pleasance, who was just the right side of loony, including that bit around the back of the house, which was very funny. I mean, that whole
get your ass out of here, Lonnie.
It's just that little look of triumph on his face when he stands up and he's like, "Oh, actually, this is quite fun being the bad guy hiding behind the bushes." And
hey, kid, what weather's original?
Exactly. Come sit upon my knee. But it's Donald Pleasance. Yes, I remember seeing him 15 years ago. And I thought he was the right side of camp lunacy, and the fact was that part was either going to go to Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, they wanted Cushing for it, but by this point, his health was failing, and he was only taking smaller roles. And so they actually offered it to Christopher Lee, who turned it down to his eternal regret. However, I can't watching it. I was thinking about this when I was watching it. I think Lee would have been a very different Loomis.
Yeah,
and I think Pleasance's Loomis works because he has that sort of. He's a little guy. You have that contrast with Michael being this really tall bloke. He's smaller than nearly everybody else, and he has this nervous sort of energy to him. As you say, just the right side of loony. You understand why no one's listened to him for years.
Yeah,
but you know he's not that loony because you know he's right.
Yeah, exactly. You sit there and go, well, I understand why everyone tries to avoid him, because he's like a very strange chartered accountant who's just been given a job to go and sort of survey a site for the first time ever, and he's kind of got an expense account. He's like, he's kind of, woohoo, I'm off. But yeah, I liked him, and every time he was on the screen, I wanted more of him. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis, compared to her friends, you can immediately see she's an actress right there. Done. Thanks. You can act. The other two, I think they just, not wishing to sound sexist, but I think they were employed because they were either friends of the cast and crew, or they look good in pants, because Carpenter seems to be determined to get them into their underwear as fast as humanly possible. Which does lead to a trope, obviously, of, you have sex or you think in pure thoughts you're going to get killed by the killer. But the thing was, they kind of threw into stark relief the good actors, if you know what I mean. But overall, I still think this is a superb film. There are things this watch round that made me kind of go, it's got corners on, or the acting's just a little bit too noticeably 70s. But I have to say, still there for me, and it still worked a treat. And like I say, sitting in the middle of the night at 1 o'clock in the morning, hopped up on enough coffee to probably kill a horse, watching this, hiding under a duvet. Suddenly I was 10 again, watching this on Betamax. I was like, no, I'm not going to the toilet till the sun comes up. I'm not walking across the landing in case there's a hand there. No, I'm not doing it. Unless all the lights go on. All the lights go on all the way to the house, all the way to the toilet. The whole place looks like Blackpool Illuminations. So, yeah, so that's really it for me. Oh, the only other thing I was going to say was it made me laugh with the film that was on the telly.
The Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I don't think it was deliberate, but it was a nice bit of foreshadowing, I thought. Just like, so Carpenter really liked that film from the off, and very clearly so. But, yeah. Anyone got anything else to add before we move on? Or do you want to do a little sort of conspiracy corner about, is he really the devil?
Well, I just want to ask one question. In a battle between Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, who do you think would win? Or would it just be a complete and utter fucking standoff?
I'd put my money on Michael.
Yeah?
Because Michael's smarter.
Yeah. And, yeah, I would too, but the problem with all the Jason Voorhees stuff is he is basically a rip-off of Michael.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, if we were to use terms of serial killers, I mean, Michael Myers compared to Jason Voorhees is essentially Batman. Because he plans that shit out. He's 2 steps ahead of everyone. He knows
he's a master of disguise.
Yeah, exactly. He's a master.
But the thing I liked, the scene where he slowly walks across the road to get Laurie, who's struggling to get in the door. It's kind of, that's become a cliche, Oh yes, how do these killers catch me when they always walk? But in this case, you actually get the answer to why he's walking, because he knows damn well he can just go in through the side windows. Yeah. Which he does. She locks the door bolted, turns around and goes, oh, fuck. Yeah. He's already in the house.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of cunning. That's where he'd cook Jason's goose.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so anyway. I mean, I personally, I've never liked any of the Friday the 13th movies, not because, apart from number 10, which was great at doing the Scream thing of taking the piss out of things. But I have to say, the killer, is just one of those things of, we're just going to make him essentially a zombie with a hacksaw, essentially, or a machete, and that to me isn't as interesting. But the whole mythos, it's the USS Indianapolis conversation that's in Jaws. It's that whole thing that Loomis says about the 15 years, and looking that there's nothing behind the eyes, there's no conscience, nothing. There's no remorse, no morality, nothing. It's there was during the 70s there was a whole thing of there always had to be a monologue that kind of set these things down. Ian Holmes Ash does it, for Alien. Loomis does it in this. Robert Shaw does it in Jaws, gives you that kind of monologue that sets the tone of why they fear this thing or why you should fear this thing. And to me, that's really effective. That sets things up so well. And for me, I think Myers is just a more effective villain because he is more, even though he is, like Voorhees, essentially indestructible, he is also a lot more relatable. You all, I mean, you have that whole thing of like, you know, everyone's met a nutter on the bus or seen one of those. You know what I mean? It's just like
I'm just thinking there's a bit of a leap between Nutter on the bus and this bloke.
Well, yeah, but the point
is, sitting on a bus and suddenly he sits next to you.
Yeah, exactly. But tell me this: have you never seen anyone in London who just seems to be walking around looking a little bit, shall we say, on the wonk? You're looking at them and you go
every day,
exactly, and you go, hang about. That person just gives off the wrong vibe. And they're not saying anything, they're not doing anything, but you're like, no, I'm going to step as far away from you as humanly possible, even though nothing you've done actually gives me any kind of reason to fear you, but I just don't like your aura, for what better term, or the fact that you're just staring at me with a fucking knife in your hand. But the point... point is, you know, but then if you so you kind of imagine, you know, it's the whole home invasion thing, you know, it's that whole thing of, you know, take the supernatural element away and he is still scary, whereas you take away the supernatural element from Jason Voorhees and basically he died in the first film because he got fucking run over and all sorts of shit, and well, actually it was his mum, but there you go. Sorry, spoilers, you know. Surprise! So, yeah, I mean, I find him and like similarly, sort of like, you know, Anthony Perkins kind of, you know, Norman Bates, more scary.
Yeah,
but I think that what it does is similar to Psycho is with. I mean, it's hard to remember now, but if you come into this fresh and you've never heard of Halloween, it's only at the end, the very end, where, right, he's took 6 bullets, he's down. Oh, Christ, he's not. That you start thinking, well, actually, is he the bogeyman? Is he, you know, is he really the devil? You know, or the shape of evil.
Exactly.
And it's only right at the end, it just gives it that sort of twist. And that's just, you know, just to, you know, make it, you know, really just to, I don't know, just make him even more iconic. And I think, like Psycho, it's that last twist of the knife, as it were, that has given this film the impact it had, the legacy it's had, the influence it's had. And it's what so many of us have tried to do and failed.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that a lot of the slasher films that followed have looked at one aspect of Halloween and tried to do that, as opposed to do the whole thing. I mean, even the sequels, you know, lack that kind of understanding.
Well, I remember reading a sequel of Halloween 2 when it came out in a British horror magazine, Monster Monthly, and the film reviewer, it might have been John Bronson who wrote it, he said, ultimately, Halloween 2 comes off looking like one of the worst imitators of Halloween.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'd be right. I mean, you know, you look at, you know, your Freddy Kruegers and your Jason Voorhees and, you know, all these other things, and you just go, yeah, all you're doing is you're focusing on, you know, the killer as a personality, or, you know, the person being stalked has had sex, or, you know, anything like that. And like I say, even Jason 10, where Jason's in space, which is just stupid anyway. But that even have a scene where to get away from Jason, the spaceship, you know, occupants, the crew, basically run through a holodeck and prime a holodeck with a lake with a bunch of nubile pre-teens having premarital sex, and they're all standing there looking at Jason as he's coming through, going, "We're virgins. Actually, we're not. We're having premarital sex." And so he goes around trying to kill them all, because they're all standing there basically telling him what they're doing, and it literally just pulls the whole franchise, it pulls the whole tropes apart. Though it does end up with him basically beating these holograms to death with bodies of the other holograms stuck inside a sleeping bag. You see him basically beating each other to death with a sleeping bag. But yeah, it just highlights the whole point, you know, that Halloween set all these tropes up, and all the other films that followed literally copied like one or two things, but didn't understand why they worked in Halloween. Am I still talking? Yes, I am. Okay, right, fine. My brain.
If one final thing on the whole tropes and the much quoted scream rules of slasher movies. Halloween is often elevated. Well, Laurie's the good girl, and that's why she survives. But actually, she has a doobie with Annie in the car earlier.
Yeah, that's true. It's more the fact that I think she's portrayed as the pure one because she does everything reluctantly. She doesn't want to. She fancies some guy called Ben, and she's not eager to sort of like start that thing off. And I don't know. It's just There's an awful lot about it where she rejects it or takes a long time getting going. I don't know where I'm going. I'm going to stop talking. I am going to stop talking because I'm clearly talking bollocks. So, apart from that, anything else, anyone? Or should we move on to feedback?
Oh, just one thing that I noticed on this viewing. One more thing, Columbo style. Yeah, is a wonderful little bit of physical acting from Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah,
is when Tommy's doing the thing, the Pokemon, and she's going, "Shut up, you're scaring Lindsay." And Tommy's like, "No one believes me." Then Lindsay goes, "I believe you, Tommy." And Jamie Lee has this just look that I recognise as being an uncle. He's like, fucking kids. Fucking kids. Would you believe it?
Would you add in the movie they see fucking bogeymen everywhere? Nice. Okie dokie. Right, well, I think we are going to move on to feedback now. Yes, that'll be great. Yes. Why am I still talking? Roll the jingle.
And we're both in a dark room and our voices start to drone. How we hate recording this cast on our own. No one's listening. A slow news week behind us, awkward silence fills the room. With fuck all else to say, it spells our doom. Is there a soul out there? Someone to hear our prayer? Give us all everything we know. Or write it in an email and send it our way. Give us all everything we know. Better do it soon because we're recording today.
Right, okay, so it's time for feedback. Well, before we start the feedback, let's just tell you what's happened behind the scenes. We've lost Darren. He's fucked off.
Someone put up the hipster sign and he's roved off to dispense instant justice.
Yes. So
someone eating chips in a shovel.
Yeah. Someone's been serving Coke in a baked bean tin, and he's off like a rocket. So you will not be hearing Darren from here on in until next week. So ta-da, Darren, wherever you may be. He's probably not even listening. Why am I even saying these things? What am I doing? Well, we're doing feedback, aren't we? Yes. So let's do feedback. Right. So the first bit of feedback, which may be the last considering the way I'm acting at the moment, is from a new feedbacker. A new feedbacker called Catherine Andreshukina. Yes. Catherine Andreshukina. I'm feeling quite proud about that. Right.
Well done.
Well done. Thank you very much. And she writes, Halloween feedback. Hello, Blackdog people. I recently was introduced to your podcast by one of your feedbackers named Greg Madden. Okay. as we waited for a couple of hours in the doctor's office. I feel like I should be playing Simon Bates' Love Tune. Sorry, anyway. Sorry. Now, normally, she continues, I don't bother people in waiting rooms, but I was very bored, and Greg and I were the only ones there, so I introduced myself, and in turn, it turned out that he was listening to one of your podcasts. And after we talked for a while, he invited me to listen along with him, and I found out that I really enjoyed it. And to make a long story very short, that day, I made a new friend and a new program I can enjoy. Wow.
Wow.
Well, there you go. Of course, welcome to the madness. I hope you don't judge the podcast by this particular reading of your feedback. Anyway, so, I don't know if you know, but we might end up getting you a superhero name at some point. So anyway, she continues. About the show. I first have to say I grew up in a small fishing town in Alaska and did not see a movie in the theatres until I was in college and moved away from home. As a teen, I was a fan of horror novels, and after I went to college, my friends, knowing my love of horror, talked me into going to Halloween marathon at the local theatre for my first theatre experience. So now Halloween holds a special place in my heart, but I do have to say that the place is only for the first one, because after that they just become mindless slasher shows. Right on! Okay, you can stay. You're allowed. You are in the right corner of the internet.
Definitely.
Definitely. Now, I watch this show every Halloween, and I truly love it because it's not a gore fest like a lot of the shows in horror in general. It so it is one of my favourite John Carpenter movies, right behind The Thing. Yep, that's correct. That is the correct order. Do you agree, Jim, or do you think it's the other way around?
No, I'll go with that.
Yeah,
I'll go with that.
I think that's fair enough. Well, watching it this time, I tried to find the flaws in it, and yes, there are a few here and there, but nothing stuck out at me or bothered me in it. The only thing bad that I could say is that the music score is overpowering in parts, and it distracts you from some of the on-screen action. But I think the saddest thing about this show is knowing that they took it and they've devolved it into a cheap cookie-cutter horror movie series that, with at least 5 sequels? Well, I think I've ranted on long enough, and I hope this feedback was not too awful. So until next time, hugs. Catherine Andrew Shakina. There you go. Yay! Well,
welcome.
That was not too ranty or too long. In fact, that was just the right length, so well done you. And, thanks for the hugs as well. And I hope I didn't absolutely marmalise your surname. So that's good feedback, and she likes it. Fantastic.
What a way to be introduced to us as well.
Well, I know. Greg Madden. Bones, eh? So he's, I don't know. I'm almost tempted to say Nurse Rand, but I won't. For you Star Trek fans out there.
Right, okay, that's why it totally missed me.
Yeah, straight over Elton's head. But anyway, we'll get to you and we'll get to your superhero name soon enough, Catherine. But thank you very much for the feedback and welcome to the cast. So we're off to a flying start. That's great. So Jim, who do you have next?
Next we have Keldor.
Keldor the Mighty,
aka Doreen Kelly.
Brilliant. Okay.
You're right. Subject line: Halloween, the pantomime. He's behind you.
No, he's not. Sorry.
It's a bit too early in the year for that.
Oh, yes, it is.
Do it one more time. You summon the Chuckle Brothers. Be warned.
Oh, no, I won't. Oh, shit. Barry Chuckle.
Anyhow, Doreen continues. Hi, I had to overcome my reluctance to watch horror movies, brackets again, because I need to send feedback after 2 weeks without being able to. I don't think I will ever watch Pulp Fiction again after being forced to watch it with high school colleagues, brackets, they certainly weren't friends. Being watched while you watch a film certainly isn't the best way to view a movie. Anyway, the music and other sound effects are perfect in Halloween, and my subject line was inspired by the scene in the hardware store just after the girls have driven off to babysitting, and Michael Myers drives round the corner behind Dr. Loomis. We, my husband and I, were shouting, "He's behind you!" at the screen. Annie is a terrible babysitter. She's on the phone and shouts at Lindsay at least 3 times, and never once gets any type of response. And yet, when she ruins her clothes, she just wanders out to the laundry without even the most cursory of checks that Lindsay is actually still alive. In the scene where Laurie discovers all the murdered bodies of her friends, I was suppressing laughter when Bob looked like he was a pendulum and perhaps playing on some monkey bars. Nice one that traditional crafts can come in handy. Laurie uses a knitting needle as a weapon. Knitting can be cool.
Yeah.
When the sheriff pulls up to speak to Dr. Loomis, I thought his car looked a bit like the Ghostbusters mobile. I thought it was eerily effective in the way the camera showed all the rooms in the house, just looking normal but empty at the end. This is probably a horror trope directive done to death, but as I don't watch too many of these types of films, I'm not overexposed to it. Thanks, Keldor.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, that's good. I didn't know how she would react to it, to be honest, because, some people can be a bit funny coming at these things. But yeah, arts and crafts, kids, it will save your life. Just don't, always keep knitting needles, macrame, coat hangers, anything, paper cuts,
cross stitch, origami.
Yeah. Unless of course you're in the Nightmare on Elm Street film, in which case those things will be used to kill you.
Yes, indeed. Or possibly a James Herbert novel.
Yeah.
So there's Death by Knitting Needle in the Fog, I believe. But anyhow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Or a Sean Hudson.
There's definitely Death by Garden Shears, but let's not go there.
No. Yeah. Or a Peter Jackson movie, Death by Lawn.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. Cool. Anyway, right. Well, thank you very much for that, Keldor the Mighty. And, yes. Not a lot to add to that, really, is there? It's good.
I just want to say, every time I watch Halloween, I always think Lindsay absolutely rocks.
Yeah.
Totally knows his babysitter's useless, doesn't give us stuff. He's got, just get out of my way. I'm watching the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Just quite happy. Yeah, fuck you. Just leave me alone to watch The Thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Forbidden Planet. That's such a great double bill. I like that.
Definitely.
Maybe that's what we should do. We should do a season of watching the films that other people are watching on film.
And a scene on TVs.
Cool. Anyway, well, thank you very much for that, Keldor, Mighty. And we'll maybe speak to you next week for The Omen. So, let's move on. So, Elton, who do you have next?
I have Fred, Dr. Scum Lubno.
Aha. Okay, and what does he have to say?
Okay, his subject is The Boogeyman's Gonna Get Ya.
Nice.
Hello, Blackdog crew. Hope all is well. Well, October is here, my favourite month, and we are kicking off with a right classic, Halloween. Sure, it's a small independent slasher movie that has been copied and satirised over 35 years, but the movie itself is very effective as a horror film. I'm sure there will be many who say it's boring, that nothing happens for almost an entire hour, and that there's no gore. However, for me, it's chilling how the tranquil feeling of suburban life in Haddonfield, Illinois, is devastated by the storm of Michael Myers during one Halloween night. As a parent, one of the creepiest moments was when Michael Myers was stalking the little boy Laurie was going to babysit later in the evening. The car slowly following the boy, who was so frightened you wanted to yell, "Run back to school, kid!" A small, slightly funny moment was when Myers stuck the guy with the glasses up against the wall with the knife. The guy was pinned like a butterfly, and Myers tilted his head a few times as if to say, I didn't think that would hold him up. I think we mentioned that earlier on, didn't we?
Yeah, it's like, wow, I didn't think that actually work.
One thing I did pay more attention to this time was when Laurie was in the school and the teachers were discussing Samuel's and how the fate is like a movable mountain. This description of fate is a foreshadowing of what is to come. It's also interesting that Dr. Loomis, the man who is trying to track down and stop Myers, has a first name of Samuel. It's as if the Doctor's knowledge acknowledges that Myers is an unstoppable force of evil, while fate will play itself out, but he still needs to do what he can to stop the evil. Always watching this one in October, and you give me an excuse to watch it earlier this year. Thank you, Blackdog, and looking forward to the next October movie. Fred, Dr. Scum, Love Noel.
Okay, cool.
There we go.
Yeah. And and Dr. Loomis, yeah. I mean, that whole thing of doing it, even though he knows it's pretty much an impossible job. That's the kind of Van Helsing thing, isn't it? That kind of guy sort of putting himself in harm's way to defeat something that's undefeatable. Right?
Like The Exorcist as well.
Yeah, with Father Merrin, but yeah, that's true actually. But yeah.
What came first between this and The Exorcist then?
The Exorcist.
Right.
Yeah.
The Exorcist, I think 74, 73, 74.
Oh, a long time before then.
I don't know actually. That's got me thinking now. The Exorcist. Right. The Exorcist. Sorry, I'm just going to Google it up. Yeah, it's 74. Bang on the money, Jim.
Well done.
Well done. Hey. There you go. Well, it's bloody good for 74. I remember when we reviewed it for Blackdog, I think we were pretty unkind to it because it didn't scare any of us. But, yeah, cool. Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Fred. Glad we gave you an excuse to watch this film, and I'm glad you still enjoy it. That's really cool. Okay, so let's move on. The next piece of feedback is from Robert Taylor, and Robert says his title for his email is Shatner Mask, Shatner Pants. Yeah, because just in case you didn't know, Elton, the mask is a William Shatner mask turned inside out.
Well, no, it's not turned inside out.
Oh, is it?
What they did was they widened the eyes and painted it white.
Oh.
It was an off the peg Captain Kirk mask that they bought for, if I remember rightly, $1.98.
Oh, I thought
that's
an urban legend in the whole turning it inside out. Then, obviously, or I just
it must be. There's a lot of legends about this movie.
Oh, well, there you go. So that's
I knew about the mask being a William Shatner mask. It's, I think once I've seen it, and then I have seen his likeness in it. But I watched this film knowing that is his face, and I can't see him in it.
Didn't say it was a good mask.
Oh yeah.
Shit mask. Anyway, well, so now that I've completely destroyed my own urban myth and clearly know nothing, I'll move on to the feedback. It's Robert Taylor, and he says, "Dear Black Doggers, considering this show's been going for still not 300 episodes, it is kind of surprising Halloween hasn't been covered before. Clearly, it's being sitting in a room, staring at a wall and not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking right at this night, inhumanly patient, waiting for some secret, silent alarm to trigger it off and make its way to the Black Dog podcast. And now, finally, it's home." Sorry. There's a lot to love in this movie. It's something of a toss-up between this and The Thing, for which is John Carpenter's best film. Having said that, I am an unrepentant Big Trouble in Little China fan, but that's another story. Yep, that's fair enough. Jamie Lee Curtis is great, intelligent lead who you really care about. The location shooting of Haddonfield, Illinois is incredibly evocative, and Carpenter's electronic score, especially those daytime sequences of the school kids walking along and the wide suburban streets with the occasional leaf drifting through the frame, is some of the best he's ever created. However, I think what really sells this movie for me is Donald Pleasance as Sam, unsubtle psycho reference Loomis, and his palpable terror of Michael Myers. Although his American accent is decidedly shonky, it doesn't matter. When Donald Pleasance is scared, I get scared. It's that simple. The opening sequence is great, and Michael Myers is himself presented with a great mythic weight that elevates the entire story to a higher level than if he were just a generic psychopath. Also, and this might be just me, I always get a little tinkle of excitement when you see the opening titles of Howard Hawks' The Thing from Another World blaze away on the TV. Not only is it entirely appropriate for the comment of Michael Myers himself, but it's also a lovely bit of foreshadowing of what's to come in Carpenter's own filmography. Anyway, that's enough for me. My doctor's got me dosed up on Thoracine, and I've got a big day in court tomorrow. Until next time, guys, Rob. Well, thank you very much for that, Rob. Yeah, I forgot Sam Loomis was the name of that detective in Psycho.
That's right, yes,
I completely forgot about that. Oh, God.
It's a nice little link, because obviously Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Janet Leigh.
Of course. God, I'm going
to... Who was the original victim in Psycho. So.
Of course. See, this is it. I'm going to have to hand my cineast card in now. I've completely failed.
So I'm just sending the guys a link, actually, that shows you the Myers mask and the original Captain Kirk mask.
Oh, well, hold on. Let's have a look.
Side by side. I will put that on the Blackdog Facebook group now as well.
Fantastic. Actually, you know what? It does look like him. It looks like him on a sort of really bad video game. Yeah, William Shatner, if he'd accidentally smashed up against some glass windows at high speed.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
He looks like he's been stung by a bee and he's having an anaphylactic shock. But
yeah, definitely. Oh, well, there you go. Probably the best acting Shatner's ever done. Anyway, well, thank you very much for that, Robert, and thank you, Jim, for the for the mask. That's good. Stick that on the Blackdog Facebook group. That'd be brilliant.
Yep, it's there now, so people will all see this by the time you hear this.
There you go. That gives you a timeline for when we're recording as well. Look at that. Right. Okay. Well, then let's move on to your next piece of feedback, sir.
Yes. Our next piece of feedback from George Cookie Man Cook.
Oh, we haven't heard from him for a while. Hello, George.
He wrote, subject line: "Bring me sunshine." Totally.
Okay.
Greetings, doggy stylers. Yay, the indeterminate week of horror is with us, and you started with a classic with Halloween. There's not much I can say that hasn't been said before, so instead of heaping the film with praise, I'm just going to nitpick a wee bit. In the opening POV shot, after Judith Meyer's boyfriend buggers off after disappointing her with his premature ejaculation, Michael stabs her to death, and while doing this, he looks at his arm. Why? When we get to the shock unmasking to reveal young Michael and everyone freezes, the camera pans back, Michael's mum must be feeling the cold as she puts her hands in her pockets. It kind of spoils the scene and reminds me of the freezes they did at the end of Police Squad episodes. Take a drink every time someone says, totally.
Yeah.
Is it just me, but when Michael disguised himself as Bob with the glasses and the sheet, does he not remind you of Eric Morecambe? I was half expecting him to do the trick with the paper bag. Way! I think even Stephen Wonder could see the knitting needle hadn't finished him off. Despite these very mild complaints, the film is a classic, totally, and one of my favourite horror films. Anyway, that's enough for me. Keep up the good work, fellas, and Owl.
Oh.
Cheers, George Cookie Man Cook.
He's in the house with you, Jim. The owl is in the house.
Bloody in the house with me. That's why there's no whiskey in the house, ever.
I have to say, thank you very much for that, George. I have to say, that whole thing about the Judith Meyers' boyfriend, premature ejaculation and buggering
He was
off.
bloody quick, wasn't he?
He was a bit quick, but he wasn't as quick as Bob. Bob got it on pretty damn quickly in that scene. And he literally hopped on, went, then rolled off, and she's like, that's amazing. It was like, wow. Like a whole 3.5 seconds worth of sex. That was amazing. I think maybe that's the secret subtext.
It made me look good.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, I probably would have been ordering pizza at that point, you know. I mean, so I kind of draw it out rather than just a cigarette because that's over a bit quickly.
Like a 2-stroke engine.
Yeah. Oh dear! Like one of those nodding woodpecker things from the 70s with a little bulb at the bottom, just kind of up and down, going nowhere. I'll just stop there. I'm probably saying way too much. Anyway, thank you very much for that, George. Thank you very much for that, sir. Good feedback, and maybe speak to you again soon for the next film. Right. So who do we have next, Elton?
I have Cole the Bastard Hurley.
And what does he have to say?
Okay, the subject is, don't fret, precious, I'm here.
Okay.
Dear Lee, Darren, Jim, and Elton. My season begins. October, the loveliest time of the year. Leaves are changing colour, brisk, cool temperatures, the sun is setting sooner, my birthday, and, best of all, horror films every day. What a marvellous time it is to be alive, and what better way to celebrate with Carpenter's classic Halloween. Truth be told, I didn't get to Halloween until rather recently. I know big horror fans such as myself only get into Halloween within the last few years. Scandalous. But it's true. Naturally, one might expect me to have the unrealistic expectations of this film the first time I saw it. And to be honest, I kind of did. But that happened. I think it helped me realise that this film is good, but it does have its flaws. Now, about this viewing, generally, nothing really changed for me. I still enjoy it, yes. I still think Carpenter's score is among the best he's ever done, for starters. The acting of Michael's body actor is superbly subtle and lends characterization to a character that, honestly, doesn't have much in the way of a personality. Also, goddamn, is Jamie Lee Curtis young or what? In the end, Halloween is a damn fine film in my book. Sure, it could be tightened up a little bit, but hey, shoestring budget and all. Good choice, Lee. Sincerely, Cole.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Cole.
There we go.
I think...
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis did look... How old was she? 20 when she did this?
19, I think.
Yeah? She's still in that phase of her face hasn't... It hadn't filled out enough yet.
No, I think... Yeah. It
looked like Jamie Lee Curtis, but really... how am I going to put this?
Yeah.
God, crying out loud. Yeah, I'm just going to pull the parachute and back away from this one.
I think it's probably a good idea, because nothing you're about to say is going to result in anything other than us going, oh, God.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, she was 20 when she appeared as Laurie Strode in Halloween. Yes, so there you go.
It's one of the other bad things about Halloween, too. It was made a couple of years afterwards. She is noticeably changed. And because she cut her hair, she's in a very obvious bad wig.
Yeah, 3 years older. 3 years older in a wig. And, and she'd appeared the year before in Fog as well. So she was clearly, changing, shall we say. Because... Yeah, the fog is one of those weird ones which I really enjoy, but it has its weird 70s sexual politics, because she's picked up as a hitchhiker and within 5 minutes she's sleeping with the guy who gave her a lift. I always remember that. It's just weird. Don't know why.
It was the 70s.
Yeah, the 70s, a very different time. Anyway, thank you very much for that, Cole. I think we're doing quite well on the old feedback, aren't we? No one's had a real problem with this, not like old Darren, who's slinked off into the darkness. Actually, we could have just said he was in the bunker of Shun and just be done with it, if we knew the feedback was going to be this positive.
He's probably asleep by now anyway. Bless his little cotton socks.
Yeah. He's probably face down on an ironing board with the iron and still like pressed up against his ear, and he's just asleep, just snoring away, trying to iron everything off. Anyway, sorry. Again, I'm just off. I'm sorry, off on a tangent. Got to stop. Wheel it back in. Get to the last bit of feedback. Let's get this done, Lee. Come on, it's going to happen. Stop talking. Right. Okay. The next bit of feedback is from Jack Woodgate, and Jack writes, "Shatner self." Dear Lee, Darren, Jim, and Elton. As a young boy, John Carpenter's Halloween held a special kind of mystique for me, due to the fact it was about the only horror film that had me and my siblings, about the only horror film that me and my siblings were forbidden to watch. It wasn't as though we weren't allowed to watch horror films. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Alien, Amityville Horror, The Sentinel, The Omen were all part of my family film all-nighters. Hell, at about 3 a.m. on one Christmas morning, we all watched American Werewolf in London together. However, Halloween, whilst never put on the top shelf or specifically hidden away from us, or the recorded off telly VHS tape was put at the back of the bureau in which we kept our videos, simply labelled Don and Jamie. Naturally, being nosy little kid and a bit of a clever dick, not to mention disobedient little shit, I watched it while everyone else was out. I enjoyed it, I suppose, but I'd seen gorier, scarier stuff with more adult content. Only one girl with her boobs out? Jesus, I already saw Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places. To this day, I'm still at a loss as to why my mum and stepdad felt this film in particular should be hidden away from our impressionable eyes. I'll have to ask my mum someday, but perhaps I don't want to know the answer. Cue ominous music. Sorry, anyway. This time round, and it's been years since I last watched it, I found it to be quite bare-bones simplistic story. Now this may sound like I'm putting the movie down, but it actually works in this film. I was going to draw out a tangential analogy with Ringo Starr here, but I haven't got all night. Okay. And most obviously with Michael Myers. In this film, at least, there's no real indication that Myers suffered abuse or trauma as a child and had made a deal with the devil or was part of a sinister cult or any other the origins of serial killers that tend to have in the movies. He's simply a killer by roll of the dice, indicating that anyone could be a killer. Similarly, we all know about Laurie and that she's well-read, sociable, responsible and quintessential girl next door. We don't know much about her family, very little about teen angst, and definitely no actual connection between her and the killer, indicating that anyone could be the victim. She pretty much is a blank slate for which the audience to project what they want onto her. The entire story is stripped down to its bare essentials, opening, building tension, finale, without going off on too many tangents, keeping it as tight as a bowstring. When watching films of this type, we often say less is more as regards to the gore and violence, and I think in this case, at least the same code can be applied to storytelling. Until next time, Jack. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? This film kind of does with less what films with more fail to do, throwing gore all over the screen. Just that doesn't count as horror films to me. That just counts as surgery videos.
That did surprise me on the lack of blood and gore in this movie. And it was quite a nice surprise as well.
Also, that is where it kind of it created the template for slasher movies. I mean, I think the true slasher template is one of its first knockoffs for the first Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And most slasher movies are actually taking the cues from that movie rather than Halloween. Or, but you can see there's a clear line of descent from, say, Black Christmas, which is a big influence on this movie.
Yeah.
On Halloween. Jack is something, the simplistic storyline. It is, it has the simplicity of a proper campfire story. But dealt with by putting real people in it, real sort of characters you can relate to, and giving it that kind of gravity that a simple campfire tale doesn't have. But, I mean, as I say, this does owe a debt to Black Christmas, which was inspired explicitly by a famous urban legend, The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs.
Yeah.
And this draws on other urban legends, like we did touch on, like The Killer in the Back Seat, and various other, the Tales of the Hook about, there's an escaped maniac from a local asylum prowling around.
Yeah, definitely.
And it melds all those into kind of, it's sort of a modern myth of its own, really. And I think that's part of the reason why the film struck such a chord, because it touches just enough of those sort of buttons in people without you realizing, of taking you back to those scary stories you heard around the campfire or in the schoolyard or whatever. And it has that, like all those urban legends or campfire tales. It has that universality that it could happen anywhere. It could happen to anyone.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? It's that whole thing of everything about it, and that's what works for horror films for me. When it's sort of set in the mundane, when it's setting in the world where you recognise it. I mean, alien and monsters and spaceships and all that kind of stuff are all well and good, but when you sort of say, well, actually, guess what? If you haven't locked your back door, that guy's coming through the window and he's going to get you. You're going to find him at the foot of your bed. I mean, it's that kind of thing. I mean, it's another film very similar to that, in that sort of tone of kind of, this could have happened to me, is that, and it's a little bit more outrageous, is Misery.
Yes, yeah.
That whole thing of just one bad day and one bit of bad luck and everything turns to shit. But it's plausible because it's stuck in sort of like a nice, pretty straightforward world, and you get a sense that, in the case of Misery, there'd be someone on the news going, she was such a nice little girl, a nice lady, always paid her bills, was really pleasant to everyone, and the same goes for Halloween. You always get that sort of, well, these people were just, it's just so shocking it happened in this community kind of thing. Whereas fucking Freddy Krueger pulling people off of the ceiling and going, yeah, bitch, kind of thing. It's just like, oh, fuck off. Sorry. Anyway, done it again, haven't I? Right. Well, thank you very much for the feedback. And where are we? Yeah, thank you very much for the feedback, Jack. And now it's time to move on to the MP3 feedback. And the first bit of MP3 feedback, he's been mentioned already in the feedback section, but it's Greg Madden, Bones from the USS Blackdog down in the medical bay. And let's hear what he has to say about Halloween.
Hello, Darren, Lee, Jim, Elton, and the Prince of Darkness, Mr. Owl. This is Greg Bones Madden, and I'm here to bring you my feedback to Halloween, starring Donald Pleasant and the lovely Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, I had never seen this show before, not in its entirety. I was about 7 years old when it was released, and I do remember at that age that although I had not seen it, I did see the commercials they had, and the character of Michael Myers terrified me as a little 7-year-old, and probably all the way up until I was 10. After I outgrew that, I did end up watching a few of the sequels, but I never watched the original. Not being a fan of slasher movies, I never hunted it out, and so that leads me to here where I hadn't seen it before. I was surprised when I watched it. It was a little bit surprising to me. I never knew that Michael Myers moved his bodies around when he killed people. I thought that he was much like Jason and just hacked and slashed them and left them to lie where they fell. I could be wrong on that stance. I hadn't seen too many of the Friday the 13th, but and like I said, I'm not a fan of the slasher genre of horror, and I could be wrong on that. But as far as I know, there's really not much body arrangement in Halloween movies. I thought that was interesting. It was kind of surprising to me. I didn't realize that happened in the show. And when I watched this, I also thought that, well, being the first movie, they would go more into the backstory of Michael Myers than they did. I thought they would probably, give a little more history of why he went crazy and psychotic, why he... I know that he was put in the insane asylum because of killing his sister, because they showed that in the beginning, but they never really went into too much detail about his problems and what caused him to go off the deep end, so to say. I was kind of hoping for that. I would like to have seen something that would have went more into the depth of what caused him to go mental and kill all these people and become what he was. Maybe that's more of a modern thinking. This movie was made in the 70s. I know that nowadays we think different than people in the 70s did on that. There were some flaws. I wouldn't call them flaws. Things that bothered me in the show were the first scene where he kills his sister. Was to me ridiculous. I mean, the way she screamed, I don't even really want to call it a scream, but it sounded more like someone playing around or having a water gun fight or something like that, rather than somebody being stabbed. It didn't really sound like her life was in danger when she was screaming about it. I also really thought that they didn't really need to have her topless in the scene. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for topless women running around, but in that scene I didn't think it was necessary, and I'm not sure why they added that. It would have worked just as well if she had a nightgown on or something like that. It's just one of those things. I think his 70s tried to get a little TNA in there to draw in more people or make it more dramatic or whatever they wanted it with that. Now, there were a few other things I was wondering what the deal was, and I don't know if it's just a statement or really if they explained it in it and I just missed it. What his obsession with his sister was. I mean, she was the first one he killed, and then once he got out, he went and stole her tombstone. And then at the scene where Jamie Lee finds all her friends dead, he had made it up the one girl to be laying at the foot of the tombstone in the bed. I would have liked to have known a little bit more why he did that and what the obsession there with his sister was. Now, once again, that could have been, more modern thinking, looking at an older film that didn't feel like it really needed to explain that much. Could be totally off base on that, but I would really like to know a little bit more why he was killing the people he was killing. Was there, with Jamie Lee's character and her friends, did they have some link to him, or were they just purely random people he chose? Another thing that bothered me in the movie, the first half hours, it was kind of like Michael Myers, the Peking Tom. He kind of just lurked around, and I realized that it was supposed to be building suspense and the tension up, but to me, I think it kind of failed on that because of some of the way they photographed it or filmed it were totally almost comical. I mean, one thing you see him panning up at the house, and then all of a sudden, there's Michael Myers pop up like, "Where's Waldo? Here I am." But maybe I'm just overboard on that. Overall, the movie was not bad. I wouldn't go hunt it out, but if somebody said, "Hey, let's watch this," I wouldn't say no, I don't want to. It's a good, decent start. It kind of changed some of my opinions of what the first movie was about. I thought it would be less slasher than it was. But overall, an okay movie. I realize it's an iconic movie from the 70s. And one of the, you got movies like Psycho that define their genres, and Halloween is supposed to be one of the big ones in there. Whether it is or not, I could be wrong on that, but I think it is one that shaped the movies to come. It's kind of like the Ghost Watch in Britain, where in America you had Halloween that covered the suburbs and brought the movies closer to home. I grew up in an edition a lot like the edition that Michael Myers was terrorizing there, so it was something that was close to home. You could recognize it. But I think I've droned on long enough here, and I will wish you a good week to come and bid you adieu from the USS Blackdog's Medical Bay. I will talk to you next week.
Right. Thank you very much for that, Greg. Yeah. Interesting feedback. It's kind of weird because he understands. Well, firstly, he's not a fan of slashers, which is fine, understandable. They're not a kind of genre that I don't think people just actively stick with. I think you dip in and out of it. I think that's fair to say, don't you?
Pretty much. I mean, there are like devoted slasher fans, but even devoted slasher fans, most of them are rubbish.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's kind of people sort of collect watching them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But it's kind of it is even in horror fans. The slasher is somewhat of a divisive genre because a lot of them aren't very good, and,
to say the least.
And certainly, as a horror fan, it always annoys me when people equate horror movies in general just with slasher movies. It's kind of, well, no, actually, they are horror movies, but they're not all horror movies. There's a lot more going on than just men in masks slicing up women with their tits out.
Yeah, exactly. Which comes back to his other point about his sister and why she had to be nude, and secondly, she had that. Darren brought it up, didn't it? It was like that whole sort of wimpy kind of, no, don't stab me, no, oh dear, oh the pain, oh the humanity, I'm dying. Kind of
partly that's the 70s filmmaking, though. It's kind of you got to remember this is an era where. It's only in the 80s you start seeing people dying realistically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's in the 70s, or still even late 70s, still the era of stage deaths. If people get shot, there's no blood, people go, and fall over. Unless you're watching something more underground, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I think is probably one of the first horror movies that features real sort of hysterical screaming.
Yeah, which kind of puts that come along before or after this film?
That was before, but you remember that was a no budget, played the drive-ins. Well, this was low budget, but was expected to get into quote unquote respectable theatres.
Yeah.
Whereas Texas Chainsaw Massacre was more on the midnight movie circuit.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. But I've got to say, when I watched it this time, I was actually surprised by the amount of nudity in it.
Yeah,
because it's one of those things that Halloween's often held up as being kind of it started the slashers, but it's a bit more highbrow than that. There's no gore, it's subtlety, but there's still a good amount of TNA, which, judging from Carpenter's later films, I suspect that was something the producers insisted on.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like I said earlier, with the fog. It's there's kind of just a moment where all of a sudden Jamie Lee Curtis just has to be naked and just sleep with the guy who gave her a lift. It's like that moment just comes out of left field, and you kind of think someone else told you to put that in.
Yeah, it's like a tick box that has to be catered for.
Yeah. Because especially that bit in Halloween with Annie hanging out of the window, just with her arse in the hair in a pair of pants, and it's like, what? Oh, is that the only reason we really employed Annie? Because she can't act for shit.
Which is clearly where that scene in Scream where the lady gets caught in the cat flap comes from.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Greg, you made another good point about the suburbs. I think this is kind of probably, you saw it a lot more in the 80s, but this is, I think, one of the first kind of horror movies where you actually have the horror coming into the suburbs itself. There's a big thing, certainly, in American culture and British culture as well, as that, the cities were seen as being increasingly, violent and dangerous in the 70s. There were riots, there were muggers, crime was on the up, they were polluted, they were filthy. The suburbs were somewhere you retreated to, and they were safe from all of that. And so to bring this kind of, brutal killer into the suburbs, I think kind of, we're used to that kind of subversion and we're used to the idea that the suburbs actually, they're as grotty as anywhere else once you get past once you go behind the curtains, as it were. There's all kinds of horrible things happening, and you know what I mean? That illusion's broken. But I think in the 70s, it was a much more kind of a subversive sort of thing of a killer in a suburban setting like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is one of the things. It's that whole point of, just suddenly going, hang on, you've suddenly brought this way, way too close to home now. It's just like, just that whole thing of, there's just no way. You've suddenly gone from, you have to be on a spaceship, or you have to be sort of like in the wilderness of miles away from anywhere, to suddenly, well, actually, you can be just at home. And it's like, wow, okay.
Which is infinitely more scarier.
Yes, exactly. Because that whole point is, that's the whole point. It's like, it's that thing which always fails for me with vampires. It's like, if you can stand in your house and go, I'm not inviting you in, and they just float around the outside going, bollocks, if only you come, it's the Aquaman thing. If you come in this sea, I'll fucking have you. It's like, no, actually, I'm not inviting you in. Just stay outside. Oh. It's like, right. God. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, so he didn't like it, but I understand that, really.
Also, if you want to have a film that more deals with the psychological angle, do look at Rob Zombie's remake, because
that is true.
That does do that. I mean,
but that to the detriment of everything else.
Yeah. So I'd agree. I mean, I think Zombie's remake of Halloween is a very interesting movie. It's not one. It kind of impressed me without me sort of overly liking it. I thought it was very interesting, and I kind of respect what he was trying to do, but I don't think it worked for me. But different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I think
kind of the interesting thing that Carpenter's doing here is that apart from the ending, you can sort of read this, as the work of an insane maniac. And okay, to put it into context, I mean, in 1978, the word serial killer hadn't yet been coined. And there wasn't that kind of fascination, and that kind of, that sort of came later with Silence of the Lambs. In, the late 80s, where we all got into, what makes a killer tick. Though, to be honest, from reading lots about real serial killers, quite often we don't actually know.
Yeah.
We have no idea, mainly because so many are uncaught or top themselves, and we don't know why they did what they did. But the whole thing with him, he raises that tableau with the body, I think is very interesting and very astute on Carpenter and Deborah Hill's part of the script, because that is, you can sort of apply some criminological knowledge to that, because that is classic kind of a ritualized killing. It's a personal set of symbols, a tableau he's setting up that means something to Michael. We don't understand what it means because we're not him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, my take on it, just from watching it this time, is kind of, it's something about Halloween itself, and everything he does tie into that. Yeah. He literally, he's commemorating his sister's death with more bodies, and presumably, the idea if he hadn't been stopped originally, he'd have carried on, killing more people, because it's the ultimate Halloween trick.
Yeah, exactly, and also, it's that, it does reference Loomis saying that he just sat there as if he's planning for a particular moment. He's literally, you don't understand, as you say, you don't understand the reasoning, and in some ways, I mean, I've been having discussions about that on a completely different forum, but the whole thing is, I often find, the less you know about a monster, and the less you understand about the reasons why they do things, it makes it so much more terrifying, because you can't predict it. You can't work it out. And in the case of Michael Myers, it's very easy to say, actually, he's just going after nubile young girls, just like every other trope. But you forget that he killed that guy in the bloody red car that Loomis finds.
Yes, yeah.
And, he also kills Bob, and, so there seems to be very little rhyme or reason to his actions, apart from the fact that he's coming home for Haddonfield, and it's November the 31st. October the 31st. And it's like, that's all you need. That's it. You just need to be around him at a particular time of the month, time of the year, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're free, your game, the Predator is in town, sort of thing. And that's infinitely more scary than, he has to have this set of rules and he has to have this other thing, and he's doing X, Y, and Z for a particular reason. But as you say, Rob Zombie's version covers that a little bit more. But then that's just rubbish, in my opinion. Anywho, well, thank you very much for that, Greg. Yes, good feedback, sir. And so we must move on. And we move on. Oh, by the way, I hope Greg, and Catherine, didn't have anything too serious in that waiting room. Because I completely forgot they were both in the waiting room in some horrible doctor's thing. So, anyway, just another aside. I'll stop talking. I'm doing it again, aren't I? I'm doing it again. Let's move on. The next piece of feedback is from Duck and Louise. And this is what they have to say about Halloween.
Hello.
Hello.
This is our feedback for Halloween. Just finished watching it. Had all the lights off, all very creepy and atmospheric. And I still really like it. It's one of my favourite horror films of all time.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. First time for you, though?
It was indeed first time for me. I've got to admit, it was better than Pulp Fiction. I actually enjoyed watching it, and some of it I really couldn't get into because it kind of ruins it, especially the music. As soon as the music starts, it's going to happen.
Well,
creepy.
That kind of worked. I like that. I think that's great. That just reminds me of playing Resident Evil when it came out the first time. As soon as the music started, shit was going to go down. All of a sudden, something was going to jump out on you, something was going to happen, someone was going to get stabbed. Not so much in this. You think it happened all the time. I thought it was quite,
It did happen all the time. I thought it did anyway. Don't know what everyone else's views are on it, but every time you hear that creepy... That's it. It just... You know something creepy is going to happen, you know he's going to be there, or something within his vicinity, i.e. a car, because they found it, and it's just like, oh my god, mind blown. Not.
You said the music. you said the music reminded you of The Exorcist a little bit. It had a bit of the creepy Exorcist vibe to it.
It's got a twang to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't realise John Carpenter did the music for this as well. Multi-talented. Multi-talented.
I don't even know who he is. So.
Oh, he's brilliant.
I'm going to agree there.
Oh, thanks. This is where Scream got all their movie rules from. Definitely, you can just see this is where they got them all from. I'll be right back. And then he got stabbed to a door.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Considering it was only a 12-inch blade and it didn't even stick in a word. But impressive.
Scary thing is you really know that it's going to take a bigger knife to stab someone into a door. That terrifies me.
Totally.
Totally. Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
That is a drinking game waiting to happen. Honestly, Linda, if that's the one it is, totally. I think the people who made Clueless were watching this film. Definitely. Every time you say totally, got to take a drink. Jesus Christ, that was irritating. Honestly.
No, it was a good watch. I'll give him that.
It's quite creepy.
It's creepy. The only creepiest bit I thought that throughout the film was when it was like towards the end, when he was in the house, and you had Jamie Lee Curtis's character like half crying, half sobbing near the open door. And obviously the door's open, it's completely dark.
Yeah.
You can see the white door, and then all of a sudden his face just comes into the light. That was creepy. That was like, ooh, yeah. And then that was it.
I don't think
it's like, attack!
The overall film's just got a really, really sort of sinister tone to it. And Dr. Loomis chasing him down with his hands in his pocket the whole time. Donald Pleasance looks like he's playing with himself under that coat.
He does a little bit. That's creepy.
Yeah. When he's standing
is
there...
Is it a gun or is it something else?
Yeah. Is that a gun in your pocket? You're just glad to see me. Yeah, genuinely quite a creepy character. But I like Donald Pleasance. I think he's really fun. He's a good character in this. Was it just me, or did you think that he had really bad asthma as well, Michael?
He sounded like a really bad Darth Vader. Don't get me wrong. It sounded like he needed like
asthma asthma pump.
Yeah, just to cough.
I'm
just to get rid of it.
Clear your throat.
Yeah.
Strepsils.
Do you know what I mean?
Cheap enough. There's very little blood in this film for a slasher movie, and I haven't seen this in a long time, and I thought it was a little bit more bloodthirsty than it is, but not so much. Quite surprised.
No, I think you saw the majority at the beginning, all over his sister's.
All over her boobs. That was one thing. There was a lot of boobs.
Not that many boobs. I think I saw two pairs.
Three. There was 3 pairs.
Three.
There was the sister at the beginning. There was Linda, and then obviously when the other one stripped, you got covered in butter. Butter.
You didn't see her boobs though.
Yeah, you kind of saw side boob.
No, you didn't. That's not boobs.
That's my side boob.
But yeah, no.
But yeah,
there's not enough blood.
Not enough.
I don't think there was enough. I think they used the majority of it at the beginning, and then with everyone else's, it was a case of, we pretend that they've been stabbed, but the knife is just pristine clean.
It's tame by comparison to stuff like Saw now, obviously, but I think for its day it's just absolutely brilliant. It was the start of the slasher genre for me. It really was. Everything that followed this was kind of based around Michael Myers, even Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, even all the way through to Saw now, you can see all the influences.
Yeah, and I like Saw. I like all of that franchise, but if that's what started it, we need to do something with that music.
Don't forget, it was the 70s.
They're just telling you something bad's going to happen.
It was the 70s. They had to warn. They had to warn people. They had to warn them, get them ready for it.
So that takes away the scariness of it, I think. Yeah. If you didn't have it, they'd be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and it's a bit like, oh wait, no, something's going to happen now, so I can prepare.
Well, I mean, all in all, I absolutely love this. I give it 6 knives. Well, 5.5 because of the lack of blood, I think. And Lou?
What's it out of?
Oh, let's give it out of 6, why not?
Out of 6, I'll give it a 4.
4 knives?
4, yes.
4 knives, that's not too bad.
No, it was enjoyable, it was alright.
Oh, the kids, before we go any further, I can't do it. The kids, I've got to bring it up. Kids are absolutely terrified of the boogeyman. They see him out the window, they scream and shout, they get threatened with bed, they sit down and shut the fuck up. Honestly, those kids are shit.
Yeah, I hope our kids are going to be like that. Boogeyman's outside, go to bed.
The boogeyman, bedtime, alright then. Anyway, so yeah, 5.5 for me.
4 for me.
Love it, and looking forward to Hellraiser next week. Thanks very much, guys. See you soon.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right, well, there you go. 5 knives out of 6. 5.5 knives out of 6. Yeah, 4 peanuts out of 7 packets. I don't know. Thank you very much for that, guys. Good feedback as always. Yeah, another one that Lou hasn't seen, but better than Pulp Fiction apparently. So that's a start. So that's big ups on that. Yeah, interesting that you guys were looking for more blood. It's just interesting, different tastes. But yeah, I think we've covered the whole less is more discussion earlier on. But yeah, glad you liked it. Great feedback. Thank you very much, guys. And we'll speak to you next week. I don't think Hellraiser's next one, is it?
No, it's The Omen.
Yeah, I thought it was The Omen as well.
Yeah.
Confusing me like that. God, I'm getting a headache now. I think all the caffeine's leaving my system. I think I'm just going to slow down. Anyway, right. So, thank you very much for that, Duck. Thank you very much for that, Lou. And we'll speak to you next time. And now it's time to move on to our next piece of feedback, which is the belly stapler, Michael Cornett of dustandcorruption.blogspot.com. And let's hear what he has to say about Halloween.
Halloween spells Halloween. Halloween spells Halloween.
Hello, Black Doggers. Hello to Lee, Darren, Jim, and Elton. This is Mike Cornett, your man in Baltimore. I'm here to talk to you about Halloween. Okay, this movie is a fucking legend, of course. This is like one of the great trend-setting films of the 70s slasher boom, and it's actually like a lot of fun in a way, because it is kind of slow moving. It's not very bloody, but there's a lot more of thought that went into it. I know this one scene where Michael kills a guy, hangs him up on a hook, and then just kind of sits there and tilts his head and looks at him. And you start realizing that Michael is sort of an artist of death. And that's a scene that a lot of people just kind of miss. And one of the reasons why Michael is doing what he's doing, there's all this bullshit about, he's all the psychosexual stuff and all of that, which John Carpenter has always said that's bullshit. What Carpenter has said was that, it's Jamie Lee Curtis's character who's taking out her sexual frustrations on Michael by using a knife and jabbing at him and all that. Just kind of gruesome if you think about it. But it does have its problems. I've always had issue with the fact that this is taking place on October 31st in Illinois, and all the trees are green, bushes are blooming, all that. It just doesn't look like October. I found out they filmed it in spring. And actually, toward the beginning, you start noticing things like how in one scene it's bright sunlight, then they look across the street and it's overcast and there's puddles, like it just rained. And then you go back to their side of the street and it's bright sunlight and dry. What the hell? So some pretty choppy editing there. And sometimes some of the performances are pretty ropey. Sometimes the script is a little wobbly. But this was the primal film of this. Slasher films have been done before, but this was the one that really solidified the formula and passed it on to other films to imitate. So it deserves a lot of credit for that. I do enjoy it in a perverse way. Usually not much for slasher films, but this has a little bit more smarts to it than the usual flick. I was annoyed with how the sequels just went on and on and on. This was one of those movies that really would have benefited if they had just left it the fuck alone. Having Michael supposedly make his escape at the end, proved to be almost indestructible, and then be anywhere. That, to me, was a real punch. Having him come back for sequel after sequel after sequel just wore me down. Of course, I ignored most of the sequels. I never saw Halloween 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I finally did go to see Halloween H2O, which had Jamie Lee Curtis again. And that was not bad. I kind of enjoyed that. And then I think the one after that, which Halloween Resurrection, which I dubbed Halloween Regurgitation, because they keep heaving the same shit up over and over again. Ugh. It was totally unnecessary, and it's one of those things where you're better off just letting things be. There was a reboot where they tried to explain how Michael Myers became the psycho, and okay, no, don't do that. We've seen too freaking much of that, and it takes away from the character of the villain when you start explaining how they got to be how they were. Who the fuck cares? I mean, that's one of the reasons why Spectre sucked. You start going into explaining why Blofeld formed this organization, and it fucking sucked. It was a stupid explanation. Oh, I'm doing it because you're my rival for my daddy's affections. Fuck that. Just let the villains continue to be forces of nature. Don't try to explain them. Just let them be demented and depraved and evil and do their thing. So that's all. I did get a collector's market, I think the term is, a copy at a convention with the riff tracks version on it. If you can watch it with that, it's fun. It is so much fun. Anyway, I enjoyed Halloween, even though I've seen it a jillion times before. I was 13 when it came out, but I managed to see it on TV a couple of years later. It's a lot of fun. Enjoyed revisiting it. Enjoyed the riff tracks. Anyway, I'll see you later. Love and nugs to all. Mwah. Bye.
Bye. Okay, well.
Ta-da.
Thank you very much for that, Michael. I mean, I agree. I love the fact that you don't know anything about these villains. It's the reason why I still hate Prometheus, even if it was a good film. But it's not, so I won't. So there.
Stop.
I'm doing it again. Thank you. Safety word.
What about Halloween H2O. Have we all seen that?
I have. I'll be honest with you. The Halloween H2O is an odd one for me because it actually was. Didn't it come out in like 98, 99?
No, I think it was later than that, wasn't it?
No, it was 98 because it was 20 years after the original.
Yeah, and basically, I've this just name drop. My first special effects job, I was at Elstree, and we were working really late on this job. And basically, the director of the film, that never came out because he was a complete knob, but basically, to say thank you, he basically, because we were working stupidly late, he turned around and got a screening room in Elstree, and we watched Halloween H2O in the screening room. A guy turned up with on a bike with the whole film on like 2 reels. And we watched it in a screening room. I always remember that. But it does. Have you seen it, Elton?
I have seen it. It's got Josh Hartnett in it as well, isn't it?
Yes. It does. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen it. I just treated it as another slasher, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's the
one.
It
does its job, and that's really all you can ask for it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it got stupid with that whole thing of, him being eternally unkillable. I mean, but then they finally did what Darren was saying in the first place and basically pin him to a tree and lop his head off with an axe. And it's like, yeah, you ain't coming back from that. But, yeah, even so.
Well, he did.
Yes, he did, exactly. It turned out to be the wrong man. Oh, for God's sake.
Tedious.
Yeah. But, yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with Michael. I think, let these things just stop. And as we've discussed the ending and the sort of walking around suburbia with thing already, but, yeah, the fact of the matter is, if Halloween had just been one film instead of, 6 or 7 or whatever it is, then I think it would have been a much more effective film. Even though third one is a complete waste of time because it's something completely different. Oh God, I'm doing it again. Right. Well, thank you very much for that, Michael. Sorry, Jim. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think the first one, the way it ends, it's a perfectly well-rounded story, and taken in isolation without the baggage of 8 other films. Where Michael does become a slasher. You can almost read, this first film almost kind of, like a campfire spooky story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has that twist at the end that makes it kind of like a ghostly tale. And that's perfect. And you just leave it there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to do sequels, have a plan for them.
Yeah. Well, Carpenter was notoriously going to have them have it as an anthology and have a completely different film for Halloween 2. It was just going to be a story set at Halloween, which is why number 3 turned into that weird Wiccan thing. But
Druids, yes. The Druids came back in part 6, where they actually really fully explained the deal with Michael Myers, which nobody wanted to know.
No, let's never speak of that again.
Awful.
Yes.
Anyway. And you has been resurrection, as Michael says. That's pretty fucking bad.
It fucking is. It's terrible. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that, Michael. As always, great feedback, and yeah, the riff tracks. I can imagine that would have been brilliant. I have heard a couple of riff tracks there. One for Phantom Menace is astoundingly brilliant. But yes, yeah. Thank you very much for that. Good feedback, sir. And as we said before, if you want to read more of Michael's stuff, go to his blog, which is dustandcorruption.blogspot.com. Right, moving on to our penultimate piece of feedback, which is the Orgs, Pete and Anne-Marie, who are the hosts of the Borgcast, which you can find at borgcast.geekplanetonline.com and on iTunes, and they're doing a rewatch of Star Trek Deep Space Nine right now. And Pete also does this Space Doc jury thing, whatever that might be. And, let's hear what they have to say about Halloween.
Hello, chaps.
Hello.
That was made slightly less scary by the fact that we'd had to put up with a children's party with 11-year-olds earlier, which is truly horrifying.
Yeah, it was.
But, you can't beat a white-out Shatner mask to really spook you out.
I didn't find that. I watched this for the first time last year, because when it comes to horror movies, I am playing catch-up. It's a bit like you've been doing Educating Elton. Well, my friend Dieter is doing Educating Anne-Marie when it comes to horror movies. Just to give you two examples, I have never seen Hellraiser. I have never seen Nightmare on Elm Street. And that's just a couple of examples. So, yeah, first time watching Halloween last year, and I really enjoyed it. And it gave me jump scares, and I didn't quite know what was happening. It wasn't proper scary in the sense of giving me nightmares, but that's because I was aware of the publicity for Halloween H2O and therefore knew that she must have survived. Whereas had I gone in totally blind, I might have been more scared. This time round, having seen it, for me, because I've got a good memory, probably too recently, I just found it meh, because I knew what was happening. I think this is one where, it's not as good on a rewatch, because I think quite a few horrors are probably like that. And B, in my case, I think I needed to leave it longer before I watched it again. So if I left it a couple of years and then watched it, I might have a better experience. As it was, the only thing that got any kind of reaction was Ross's face's body swinging down. I had forgotten that bit.
All right.
But I remember the rest. And actually, Donald Pleasance is creepy, and I actually spent more of the movie being scared of him, which I wasn't supposed to be. Sorry.
Whereas I always find this spooky not so much because of the jump scares, just the music. Well, the combination of the music, which is always...
it is good music.
Makes my spine tingle. And also the breathing behind the mask stuff. Those two things in combination really...
I'll tell you what did get me, though, always does, the beginning... Because it's like clowns are scary, and this is why.
Yes, if you'd spent the rest of the time in a clown mask rather than a Shatner mask, you would have been more scared then.
Yes, but I think as well it would have been had more of an effect on me if the rest of the movie was him being a child murderer, because that is genuinely terrifying. A child going around killing other people.
That would have been a whole different movie. But
but if that's where they'd gone with it, it would properly still be creeping me out. But I do think if I leave it a few more years and then watch it again, I will get more out of it than I did this time.
Cool. Well,
and I do understand why it's a classic. I know all the things we think of as tropes, a lot of them began here, didn't they?
Yeah. And we watched Halloween 2 recently.
Yes.
Which sort of carries it on, basically. And that's nowhere near as good because you don't really get to know any of the characters before they get bumped off.
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis's character spends most of it unconscious, so it's a bit pointless her being in it, to be honest. So I'm definitely going to introduce you to Halloween 3 in a few weeks' time and see what you make of that, because that's rather different.
Okay. Are 4 and 5 any good? They're in this box set.
You know what? I've never watched them, so...
Oh, okay.
I've only ever got as far as 3.
Okay, fair enough.
Thanks, chaps. Chew,
Thank
bye.
you, bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Right, okay, well, let me just save you a lot of effort off the bat. Any Halloween other than the first one? There. Did you like Halloween 3, Jim?
I have a soft spot for Halloween 3. It's a very, very flawed film, but it does have something absolutely bonkers and horrible at its heart.
Yes.
And there's a couple of scenes that really work well. And I think Tom Atkins carries it.
Yeah. I mean, there's some
particularly, I don't want to give away the end, but the very end sequence, I think, is just really nail-bitingly brilliant.
Okay.
And, I mean, it's one of those. I think Halloween 3 should be one of those movies that should be remade, and remake it just under the title "Season of the Witch."
They did, didn't they?
And no, that's in something. Another barrel of horrors with Nicolas Cage in wigs, but anyhow.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those films that kind of you can see there's a good idea there, that it didn't have a good director, didn't have enough money. But if it was developed, you could get a really, really cracking, scary film out of it. But, of course, they'd much rather, try and remake films that were good in the first place and do it wrong. That's how the remake game works, unfortunately. But
yeah.
As for 4, I quite like... I didn't think 4 was too bad when I first saw it. I didn't think it was particularly good, but I thought it was at least trying to get something of the spirit of the original in some of the creepiness, but it didn't have a skillful enough director to pull it off. But in some ways, I thought it was a bit more closer to the spirit of the first one than Halloween 2 was.
Yeah.
5, it really, the wheels come off, and 6 is awful. But interestingly, about the child killer, that was something they wanted to do for 5. They wanted the idea for 5, because supposedly, I suppose sort of spoilers, but obviously he dies at the end of part 4 again, and he's been stalking Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter, played by a young Daniel Harris, who's really good in it, actually. If that's what one of the plus points to 4. And the kind of implication at the end of 5 is that as her uncle has died, the evil has passed to her. And the original idea for part 5 was to have the killer as this little girl going around killing people. And then the producers got cold feet about it and said, no, back to Michael.
Yeah. in some respects, yeah, I'm down with turning it into a child killer, and I think that would have been, especially for something like the Rob Zombie remake. But yeah, I don't know. I'm too close. I'm too close to the first one, and I hate the others, so I don't know. I can't really comment on.
Well, it's one of those. Given the state of the later sequels, if they'd gone with that original idea for part 5, which is a very creepy one, I doubt it would have been executed well.
No, it was
fairness.
In fairness, it felt as cheap as you expect some kind of film, like 5 episodes down, it would be, and sure enough, the problem was I felt like one of these kind of like constantly optimistic kind of fans going, oh, maybe it'll be good, I'll watch this one. And every time going away going, I'm never watching another one of those again. And bloody 6 times later, and I'm still going, why? Why am I doing this to myself? Anyway, thank you very much for that, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much for that, Pete. And as I say, you can hear more of them on the broadcast, which is broadcast.geekplanetonline.com. Right, now it's down to our last piece of feedback, which is Drew and Tracy. So let's hear what they have to say about Halloween.
So we've just done week 1 of Interterminate Month of Horror.
Yep.
Halloween.
Yes.
And what did we think of that one then?
Well, I'd not seen this before.
You've never seen this?
No, not at all.
Really?
Yep. I thought it was rather enjoyable, actually. I thought that it's far better than any modern horrors, which is just all like kind of blood and gore and all that. Like, I mean, it was really kind of tropey with all the stuff that's going on. But I'm guessing this is where a lot of it comes from. You know, like every time they kill the baddie, and then like they turn their back on him and he gets up and stuff like that.
Well, that's it. Yeah, don't spoil that.
Perhaps this is where this comes from.
On that, but yeah, this is probably one of the first films we've actually sat through in its probably entirety, and we only spoke for about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
throughout the whole film.
It helped as well because we turned all the lights off, and it's like a little bit later.
Well, that's what I was going
to say. And a couple of beers. I think this is what you need to watch a film like this, isn't it?
Yeah. So even the credits started to give me the heebie-jeebies because you were like going around turning down all the lights, and there was no lights on in the house, and the bloody cat's in the front room staring out the door,
into
looking
the
at something
hallway.
in the hall, and I'm like, what's that there? What's that there? So it was already giving me the bloody heebie-jeebies before we even watched it. I shouldn't watch horror films. I really shouldn't.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
So if you're going to drop a knife next to someone that's been trying to kill you for the best part of the night, make sure they're fucking dead before you actually... There's 2 things in here. So Laurie, she stabs him and then thinks he's dead and then drops the knife right by his side. And then the doctor shoots him and then goes, oh no, it's fine. And then leaves him.
I think you could say about a lot of the things in this. You could, there's lots of stuff that. It's just a film, isn't it?
Stamp on his head, make sure he's fucking dead.
You'd cut his head off with a knife, wouldn't you? That's what I'd do. I'd stick it right in his heart, wouldn't you?
I have seen this film before, and it's not. Tonight, it wasn't half as bad as people make out it is.
I don't know it's bad at all.
I think, I remember it to be, because I always remember Halloween 2 and 3 being quite a lot better and a bit scarier. But I think that's because this one was so much older. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite spooky, and there's a lot of shit happening in this.
It's definitely dated and corny, but I think it's enjoyable. I think it's an enjoyable watch for what we just watched. I tell you what though, this is the first film I've ever seen where they have a sex scene and then they stop having sex and they have a cigarette. I mean, that's a real old classic thing, isn't it? But I've never actually seen it actually happen in a film. I was impressed with that, if nothing else.
And was also impressed with the fact that he'd squeezed, was it Linda or something, into the cupboard, and when they opened the door, when her reveal came, she was all boss-eyed. And
there was some funny deaths in
giggle,
this.
didn't it?
Yeah.
And the fact that he'd put a knife through the guy.
Yeah,
and
he was standing up, and it was into about 1 inch door, wasn't it? And it's holding him up. No, I really don't want to start criticising it. I just think for what it is, like a 70s horror, it was good, enjoyable stuff.
Yeah. And you was quite impressed that you recognised the Forbidden Planet theme tune, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it was on in the background, you did give yourself a bit of
I'm glad there was some spaceships in it somewhere.
There was indeed, yes. Yeah. All right, well, let's leave it there then.
Yep. So, good first week.
I enjoyed it. People are absolutely going to cane this film, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Absolutely. Nice one. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye. Well, I think you'll be wrong. We are not caning it. Nah, just goes to show. There's been a couple of dissenting voices, but I think all in all it's done quite well, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. So
I think it's come out quite well, and the door thing has really taken off as well.
Yeah. Michael mentioned that as well. The whole thing of pinning him to the door and studying him, being what was it? I wrote it down actually. An artist of death. I like that.
Oh, nice.
I like that. That was a good phrase. I should have brought that up on his feedback. Sorry about that, Michael. So anyway, there you go. Thank you very much for that, guys. I'm glad old Drew liked it, because when he said he hadn't seen it before, and then suddenly it was like they started to pick apart, and I thought, well, he's going to absolutely cane it. And then actually it turned out he was the one defending it. So, cool. But they both subscribed to Darren's point of view of dropping a safe on his head or doing something absolutely permanent damage to him once he's dead. Dead in inverted commas. So, cool. So there you go. If we've learnt nothing else from this podcast tonight, when someone pretends to be dead, you make sure they're fucking dead before you put the gun down or the knife.
I think the point is, we have all learned that through 30 years since Halloween.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So,
I mean, now if any of us were attacked by a killer and we put them down, we'd kick their faces off and put them through into a wood chipper, wouldn't we? Just to be sure.
Yeah. Well, it's like that bit in Zombieland. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like one of the rules is the double tap.
Yes,
you shoot someone and then you go back and you shoot them again to make sure. So, yeah. Okay, well, great feedback, guys. Thank you very much for sending that in. And that's it. Time to wrap this up as my caffeine withdrawal starts to kill my brain. So let's just wrap this up nice and quickly. So I did have a look at the list, and yes, next week's film is... Oh, whose choice is it? I did have a look at the list, and then I completely forgot whose choice it was.
It's mine.
It's yours, Elton. That's
Yes.
it. It is. Go on, you say it. Go on, it's yours. Go on.
Okay, it's The Omen.
The Omen. The original, not the remake. There you go.
Oh, no. The bona fide, in inverted commas, classic.
Gregory Peck and David Warner looking all
Oh, yes.
and yes, lots of other Patrick Troughton.
Patrick Troughton, Billy Whitelaw.
Yeah, exactly. So and someone that me and Darren went to school with, Harvey Stevens, the actual Damien.
Oh, the kid.
Yep, he was in our secondary school. In fact, he was in my English class. So there you go. One step removed. There you go. That's a pub quiz one for you.
Wow.
Who went to school with Harvey Stevens from The Omen? Right. So I take it we've all seen this.
Oh yes.
What do we think of it before we go? What are we looking forward to it, Jim?
I am. I have vivid memories of seeing The Omen for the first time when it was shown on late night TV in the very early 80s, and I loved it then. And it's a film I've gone back to over the years, and it's kind of it's an all-star proper A-list cast. It's probably one of the sort of more prestigious horror movies ever made, with the sort of talent involved. It's a great fun horror movie. In the satanic movie stakes, The Exorcist always gets all the attention, but in The Omen it gets a bit overlooked. But The Omen was a pretty big deal back in the day. Certainly everyone at my school could quote the passage from Revelations about the coming of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Let him who hath understanding calculate the number of the beast. And it's one of the, I've got the complete Omen box set. I've not revisited for a while, so I'm looking forward to going back to it and having another look.
Yeah. And Elton?
I have seen this. I don't think I've seen this since I was around about 12 or 13, though. This was another one of my granddad hand-me-down collections on Betamax.
Right.
And I've chosen this more because I haven't seen it for such a long time, and it interests me. I like all the biblical stuff that surrounds it. I feel, from a personal point of view, that adds a lot more weight to a film. So yeah. I'm really put this on the docket so I can actually watch it again, really.
Nice. Okay, fair enough. Why not? That's a good idea. I mean, for me, this will only be like my second time ever of seeing it, because I tell you what, I've always seen the second one with William Holden. And that scene with the lift, and
classic.
Basically, I used to watch that a lot more than any other horror film at the time, and I don't know if it was because I just managed to tape it and just watch it, but it was certainly I was watching. I remember seeing that film at least about 10 to 15 times over the course of my video player's life. But the first one, once. And I don't know why. So it's going to be an interesting watch for me, because I always found like some of the deaths in number 2 to be quite inventive and interesting, and the whole sort of angle of sort of discovering that he's the beast and all this kind of thing. And there's a scene also under the ice at the military academy, which always makes me feel yuck. It freaks me the fuck out. So if there's anything like that in Omen 1 that I completely forgotten, then this is going to be a kind of interesting one to watch. So yeah, I don't know if I know Darren's got the box set, but I don't know if he's actually ever seen the first one. So we'll just have to find out next week. And so it's over to you guys. Send in your feedback for The Omen. As with Halloween, if there's a large amount of feedback, we'll shut the doors, and I can only apologise about that. But as you can hear now, we're into 3 hours and 3 minutes, and so 15 pieces of feedback is kind of the limit, I think. So send your feedback into blackdog@keepplanetonline.com, or leave it for us on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/the Blackdog Podcast. And thank you to everyone for sending in your feedback. Always appreciated. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Elton, for sticking with me on this feedback epic journey.
Yo.
And yeah, thank you all for listening. Thank you for sending your feedback in. Thank you for taking part in the podcast in your own special way and putting up with this idiot talking shit, because I'm still talking shit and I can't end the fucking podcast properly ever. So I'm just going to stop it there. Right there. Like now. Honest. Good night, everyone.
Nighty night.
Night night.